Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Well, we thought we'd know by now if the Guardians season was still over. If someone would have told us yesterday, at the time we did the show, that the Guardians would still be playing,
Man,
we'd be like, wow, we're in the ALCS.
Yes. Man, you'd be freaked out. You're like, let's go.
It didn't work out that way. The rain washed it out. What a nightmare, really. My son was at the game, waiting for it to start,
That was
like
ridiculous.
everybody else.
That was ridiculous.
It was interesting how it played out. We'll talk about all of that. We're going to get into the Guardians and Game 5. We'll also talk about some of the decisions facing Tito, because do you come back with Bieber on short rest?
Right.
As things stand right now, he's going to start Aaron Savali. I wouldn't completely discount the idea that Bieber's not available.
Sure.
I think, now that he's just on 1 day short rest, or short of his normal rest, I think that certainly opens the possibility that we could see Shane Bieber, who was lights out against the Yankees the first time through. The Yankees have switched their starter, so it will be Cortes going in Game 2 instead of Tyone, which we kind of figured would happen if the game was pushed. And now their bullpen is on full rest.
We have an alarm going off.
Just so people know, we literally are in the parking garage. This has not happened in our 111 shows.
That's true.
Well, there's always a first for everything,
This is the first, so that noise you hear in the background, it's not an alarm. It's someone's car
Is that
alarm
yours,
going
bro?
off.
Are the fans hearing that?
It's not mine.
I don't know.
We're going to send Anthony, go check out.
Oh, it stopped.
Yep.
It's off.
No, we're good.
stopped.
We're
They
good.
found their car.
It wasn't mine.
Whoever was looking for their car found
It
it.
wasn't mine.
Yeah, they did. I don't know why you'd set your alarm in a secured parking garage. I turned
That
mine
is
off.
odd, yeah.
I
I
know.
don't even got my door. I don't even unlock that.
Yeah. That's true.
So, we'll talk the Guardians, Yankees, obviously. Also, it's the Browns offense versus the Ravens defense. We're going to dive into that and see who has the advantage there. You saw on the slate leading into the show that Jen Matthews was going to be here for her bi-monthly appearance to quiz us on trivia pertaining to the Browns' opponent that week, which, of course, is the Ravens. We just got word that Jen's not feeling well. Jen won't be here to operate the trivia game, but McNuggets is always good for a game show. He's going to slide in and he's going to ask the questions. Also, Chuck Kyle, the legendary high school football coach at St. Ignatius High School, will be here. This, of course, is his last season. I think this is his 40th year as the head coach. We'll ask him that when he comes in.
They're 5-3 this year.
5-3. A little disappointing this year. They really took it on the chin to their rival, St. Ed. I went to that game a couple of weeks ago. St. Ed's I'd be surprised if St. Ed's doesn't win the championship, the state championship. They're very, very good. And also, as we mentioned, what should Tito do with his starting rotation? But we're going to begin today with, right there, Guardians Game 5. We were all amped up for yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm sure the players were. They showed up. They went through their stretching. They were ready to play the game. Then it was announced close to 6 o'clock, I believe, that the game was going to go into a delay. It was supposed to start at 7. I was talking to our meteorologists all day about the weather. They said it looked like there was one initial system that was traveling southwest to northeast, which was going to really kind of encompass the island of Manhattan for most of the evening. They thought that there would be a window to play at 9 o'clock. A second system developed, which isn't out of the ordinary with these kind of systems. A second system developed. You can see the amount of rain they had. Finally, the decision was made 9:30ish, I think, that they were going to play it today. The game will play
Which
at
made
4
sense.
o'clock.
I didn't understand. It was so funny because I'm always on Twitter, and our fans were making fun of Yankee fans and the Yankees saying they're cowards, they don't want to play. And then as soon as the game got called out, our fans were like, it's a conspiracy theory. We don't want, okay, well, stop whining about it. We got to play. There's no conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
If the league wanted to help the Yankees, listen, we all understand that the TV networks would rather the Yankees win. We understand that. Which
and
it's
Major
obvious.
League Baseball. They stand to make a lot more money if
we
the
get
Yankees
it.
win.
But and maybe I'm not as I can be cynical as anybody, maybe more. But I don't believe they messed with the game yesterday to help the Yankees win. I just think that's
Well,
ridiculous.
they didn't pull the rain clouds.
I know,
in.
it's ridiculous.
I don't either.
I'm like, it's raining. What do you want them to do?
If anything, they sided with the Guardians yesterday by stretching
Trying.
it out so long.
They tried.
The Guardians wanted to wait.
Yes.
Let's not call it at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Right.
What if you don't know what is going to happen with weather. What if at 8 o'clock it stops raining and it's a great night?
But that wasn't happening.
The Yankees early on in the night wanted to call it right away.
Go home.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, they get an extra day of rest for their bullpen. Like we were arguing about this in text. I think this is a really big break.
I'm with you too,
for
Jay.
the Yankees
Yeah.
over the
I don't
Guardians.
see it being. I mean, obviously it's an advantage for the. Well, it's a slight
It screws
advantage.
the Guardians every direction.
How?
Because number one, now they can bring Cortes back, admittedly on short rest, but obviously they feel better about Nestor Cortes than they do about Jamison Tyone on full rest.
Right.
So that's an advantage to them. It gives the Wandy Peralta and Clay Holmes a day off, where Boone's already said earlier in the series they don't like throwing Holmes in back-to-back games. Obviously,
and Peralta had a lot of work in games.
Peralta was gassed.
All right.
Yeah. So they get an extra day off there.
Let me tell you something. Clay Holmes has been awful the second half of the year. He's been awful.
He was pretty good in Game 4.
He wasn't in Games 4.
That's
and
fine.
9.
It's one appearance, one inning.
But I'm saying, and now you're going to bring him in back-to-back games, which Boone has already said he doesn't like
Jason,
doing.
But I can't look at that as a huge deal. The Guardians, in the end, is it a deal? Is it nothing? No, it's not nothing. You would have been I do agree. You're better off playing last night. However, I'm not going to make a huge deal about this. The Guardians have a significantly better bullpen. It's not close. Wandy Peralta, I know he's pitched pretty well here. I'm not getting worked up about Wandy Peralta. The guy's been a journeyman for a decade.
Agreed, but he's been one of their best relievers, and now he's got a day off, and now he's available.
We're missing the whole boat. If you get to this point and you're in game 5, and you can't go win, you didn't deserve to win. I don't care if they delay it till next week. You got to go out, hit the ball. You got to catch the ball. It's still the same things. Is it a little bit of inconvenience? Sure, but this is what championships are. You're going to have to beat a guy on the field. It don't matter whether he got rest or no rest, or he probably is a little fresher. But at the end of the day,
so are the Guardians guys.
Guardians are fresher too.
They're already fresh. They didn't pitch in Game 4.
They've thrown over 30 pitches, though.
I agree with Jason on just about all of your points. You said on all points this benefits the Yankees. The one thing that I think the Guardians do have an edge now, their ace is available, where yesterday he was not. So now whether or not he starts, whether or not you had brought up an interesting point, which I hadn't thought of, and I'll go ahead and let you talk about it, because I was just thinking it was either they were going to announce Bieber was the starter or they were going to announce Savali, and they've gone with Savali. I still thought all along that Bieber was available and would be available now. He's just on 1 day shorter rest.
Yeah.
So I think he's available. That benefits the Guardians for sure. But your theory is interesting, one that I hadn't really thought of.
Which one? I don't even know which one it is.
Well, you said that perhaps Tito's just playing games with the Yankees, announcing Savali.
Well, this was just Savali's going to start. I do believe that. But something was just strange with how Tito handled yesterday. Because Sunday after the game, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and I wrote about it. I went to Shane after Game 4 Sunday and said, "Did you throw your bullpen?" Well, it would have been that day. Would have been Sunday. Did you throw your bullpen Sunday, which was his normally regular scheduled day? He's like, yeah. And he said it was a light bullpen. So I was talking to someone else in the organization and said, yeah, Shane threw his bullpen. It was 22 pitches, light bullpen. We're not using them. And now suddenly, the game gets pushed, or this is before the game was officially pushed. So reporters are in Tito's office, and the question came up, is Shane available? And Tito said, he's throwing a bullpen now. And this was yesterday. On no planet does a pitcher.
He's throwing it now. I thought you had said in the text chat he threw it today.
Well, today, which was
But if he said, I thought perhaps he just confused the days.
But
because
if he said now,
when you play a late game and then jump on a flight and go to a city, sometimes the days do marry together.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But if he said he's throwing it now, I think they're playing games.
So Tito said Shane's throwing his bullpen now. No, he wasn't. So either maybe he did get confused, or I'm not calling him a liar. I think there's some gamesmanship going on here.
He lies. Who cares? I mean,
that's I know.
It's nothing different than a GM of a football team sending smoke screens before the
right. So I think he's trying to throw. Is it that big of a deal? No, but it's interesting.
He wants the Yankees to think that Bieber's unavailable, off the table,
completely unavailable,
and you don't think he is.
For Tito to say he's throwing a bullpen now when he wasn't, he threw his bullpen the day before. I think there is some gamesmanship going on. Having said that, I was talking to Zach Meisel on the drive in, and Zach listen, it's pretty obvious. They've been very, very careful with Shane all year long, coming off the shoulder injury, And I
rightfully so.
Yeah, and I don't think, and Bull, you've mentioned this a couple times, and Zach said this as well.
Yeah.
The numbers on 3 days rest historically are awful. They're not very good.
Yeah.
So when you put all that together, I don't think we're going to see Shane tonight. But I just wanted to make sure that we have it on record that something's strange.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Something's
even
amiss.
if it's an inning. Even if it's an inning. Even if it,
Well,
it's an elimination game, and how many times have you heard managers say it's all hands on deck?
Right.
And we've seen starters from 2 days earlier come back and pitch in relief.
Yes.
2 days.
Yeah, right.
2. This is
John Lester did that in Game 7 of the World Series.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is almost full rest. I mean, it's not, but it's close.
Yeah.
The short rest that I don't like, personally or from experience watching, is when you're 2 days. A lot of times when you're coming back, the muscle fibers that you tear when you pitch just take days to repair. The older you are, the longer it takes those muscle fibers to repair. It's just you're throwing a baseball. Everybody counts pitches. It's way more than 100 pitches. I always laugh when they say pitch counts on. Just from someone who's done it, when you throw your pregame bullpen and you throw 8 pitches between innings, you're close to 200 pitches. And I know that those aren't high leverage pitches, but they're pitches. You're going through the motions. And it takes its wear and tear. I think today that if the situation dictates, Shane Bieber will be on the mound at Yankee Stadium at some point.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if he isn't. The only way he isn't is if I think there's a 6-0 one way or the other.
Yeah.
Then you probably won't see him.
You know, my theory all year has been don't pitch 3 days rest. It almost never works, right? You look at the numbers on 3 days rest, they're terrible.
Actually, Mikey has
I have them real quick. Let's take tag board full here. This is from Bull's guy, Bull, thank you for turning me on to, is it Cleve TA?
Cleve TA.
Cleve TA?
Yeah.
He ran a quick, I'll just read this, but starting pitchers in MLB playoffs on exactly 3 days rest since 2000, 84 games. Teams went 31-53. It's hard to know who was favored. 7-14 since 2007 with a nearly 5 ERA. Only 39% of those pitchers made it to the 6th inning. 1 strikeout per inning, almost half a walk per inning.
Now
and just to keep in mind, usually pitchers going on 3 days rest are your ace or your second best
Absolutely.
pitcher. These aren't 4 or 5 guys. So
Right,
you're not
those
pitching
numbers are
back-end
drastically
pitchers
different than what you'd expect from
Right.
an ace.
And
or
in
number 2.
most of those games, he said he had no idea knowing who was favored.
Yeah.
In most of those games, had the pitcher been on full rest, they certainly would have either been favored or it would have been a push because you're likely, if it's a game 1, you're going up against the other team's ace.
Yeah. Right.
Those front of the rotation guys that typically do this don't have success. I think that works in our favor today.
Right.
Cortes is going on short rest.
Exactly, and that's why this idea that the Yankees are better off with Nestor Cortes, who, yes, was better than Jamison Tyone this season, but it's not like Jamison Tyone's some scrub. Like, he's a pretty good pitcher.
But again, the Yankees clearly feel better.
Well, that
given
doesn't
those
mean-
numbers, they still feel better about
They do.
Cortes
that
than
doesn't
they do
mean
Tyone.
they got a $300 million payroll and no bullpen. So I don't know, not everything they do is right. So
Well, they've got some injuries in their bullpen, and obviously Chapman is unavailable.
Their
for a different
injuries
reason.
are guys outside of Chapman. Well, Chapman's not injured. He's
he's
shot. The other injuries in their pen, Zach Britton has been injured for 2 years.
Yeah,
so
I know he has.
Their other injuries are all young guys. So it wasn't like they spent any. It wasn't like they
I
got
know.
lucky that some of those guys were pitching well this year.
It's safe to say that as they value their categories in their team, the bullpen was probably the thing that they valued least.
Yes,
That's
sure.
starting pitching and power in the offense. By the way, I know we've talked briefly about this, but what I didn't expect was for the Guardians to have this big of a defensive advantage. The Yankees have not been
Yeah, it's
good
been
defensively,
bad. Well,
and the Guardians have been absolutely fantastic.
But I just wanted to finish my point real quick, and then I'll make a comment on that too. I just think this idea that I know Nestor Cortes had a good season, but he has no track record. He has no playoff track record. He didn't pitch well against the Guardians the first time around.
No, he wasn't bad.
I didn't say he was bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't like dominant. They were hitting him.
What'd they get, 2 off
He only
of him?
pitched like 5 innings.
He pitched well in game 2.
I would say
What was his line that game?
Give me 1 sec. I'll pull it up.
He
go
wasn't
5
involved,
innings,
he
give
wasn't
him 2
involved in
runs?
the decision.
The only
but-
starter that scares you is
You're
Garrett
not
Cole.
worried about
Oh,
any
yeah.
Yankees
Garrett
starter.
Cole is the
and we know
only
that Garrett
one.
Cole
Exactly.
isn't pitching.
Right.
And a pretty good starter on 3 days rest doesn't make me nervous.
No, I know. I'm just pointing out that, like,
They'd rather start Cortes, but maybe they're making a
but
mistake.
Cortes
think-
went 5 innings, by the way, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. He gave the 1 home run.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a great performance.
It's not awful.
I
It's
think-
not.
I didn't say it was awful.
I was
but-
wandering around Universal Studios. I
Yeah.
think probably, if I recall, some of those runs were charged to him after he left the game, maybe.
No, he gave up didn't he give up a 2-run home run?
Did he?
He gave a 2-run home run to Rosario.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. No. Rosario had a solo shot. They had given up another run earlier.
I saw none of that game. I was waiting in line for the Incredible Hulk most of the day. But I just think it benefits the Yankees bullpen more than anything, even more than Cortes Tyone. Just giving Holmes that day off in between. I know you said he hasn't been great. He was pretty good in Game 4.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have stretched them a little bit thinner.
Agreed.
And Wandy Peralta. Here's the other thing that we haven't discussed. That this is why I would almost consider throwing Shane today. If it goes the way we talked about yesterday, where Savali gets one turn through the order and that's it. So you're going to get maybe 2 innings out of him. And then you're looking at Trevor Stephan for 2, Karinchak for 2, Emmanuel Clase for 2 and a few. You're at 8 innings there. You're going to have nothing left for Houston. I mean, you got to roll right into Houston in Game 1.
But your hope is that Bieber could go 7-8 innings in that
If
game.
you can get
But
7
Jay,
out of
what about-
Bieber.
Yeah.
What about the idea that you don't? I mean, look, Houston would be a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the
gotta
same
win
time,
first.
you got to win tonight.
I don't care
Win
who got to
today.
throw.
And that's why I'm saying if
might
you're not
use
going to have
Bieber.
anything for behind Bieber, and I mean Eli Morgan pitched well the other night, Cody Morris pitched well the other night. That's what would be left behind Bieber in a Game 1. It's not like literally no one will be left in the bullpen.
Here's what scares me in these games: managers, quick hooks. Everybody's on a short leash.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Yankees have so much. They have such an ability to get guys on base. When you look at their order, I'm afraid that you could be in a first or a second inning situation where there's first and third, nobody out, and you might see a hook. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That you probably will.
Yeah.
And you can see
particularly if there's a
Karinchak.
Stanton that's on deck or Aaron Judge, and that's how you can really run through the pitchers.
Yes.
I'll tell you something, guys. I don't think it's a terrible idea, and I know Savali's supposedly going to start. I don't think it's a bad idea to take one of my better relievers and start the game with the top of the lineup.
I kind of
and
wondered
then go
that.
to Savali after that.
I kind of wonder
Yeah.
that. Start Karinchak. Now it's a position he's never been in before.
Right.
But you let him get through Judge and Stanton.
Right.
Bring
If he had looked
Savali in.
better
Right.
in his last
command
appearance,
was way
I would
off, but-
maybe consider that. The one thing you can't have is 2 walks in the first inning
Right.
with their big boppers coming up.
Right.
Like there's no way you can. You've got to have a strike thrower. Particularly, it'd be nice if you could have a ground ball pitcher or a strikeout pitcher, because I do think they're going to get runners on base. The best friend then becomes the ground ball.
Yep.
I
don't know. I still think they have a great chance to win this game.
I love their chances.
I'm with Jason that I think this benefits the Yankees more than it does the Guardians, but I still think the Guardians are in great position to win
If
this
I
game.
was at 85% yesterday, I'm probably at 73% today. You still feel
Yeah.
good,
Right.
just not quite as good.
I don't. We've been talking about the pitching, and rightfully so. It's the playoffs. That's the biggest thing that matters. But to me, I think this game just comes down to runs. Like, yes, you have a great bullpen, but the Yankees have shown in this series they're going to hit 1 or 2 home runs on whoever you
That's
throw.
true.
So if you're looking at it from a Guardian standpoint, my question is, how many runs do you have to get to, or how many runs you have to have early to where your bullpen even matters? Because sure, you can, if you get to your bullpen and they already got 4 runs, it's 4-1. It don't make
I
Right.
think they would get to their bullpen before they got 4 runs.
well, 3-run home runs happen just like
No,
that.
I know, I know.
That ain't like
If that
Yeah,
happens,
it
if,
could.
if-
That's
if-
trouble,
If
obviously,
that
if that
happens,
happens.
there's big trouble. I said yesterday, can't remember if it was on this show or on Channel 3, but I believe that the key to this game, it's always important to score first, but the Guardians score first a lot. I think it's very important that they score first.
Yes.
If they push 1 or 2 across in the top of the first inning, I think that place is going to get real tight, real fast.
Oh, yeah. Their fans are already tight.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely. And you don't want to be in a situation, which we've seen a couple of times in this series, where the Guardians get a run early and then miss an opportunity to score more.
Yeah,
Leave
look,
guys
yeah,
on
don't
base.
leave guys on
Loaded
base.
Can't have that
bases.
happen. And especially because if Cortes struggles early, he's on short day's rest. Boone might start to panic. Then all of a sudden he brings Tyone out of the pen. Who knows what he's going to do. But if they have to go, with Cortes starting, they're going to the pen early too. So even if they have Peralta and these other guys, their other guys suck. Some of their other guys.
I know.
So they're going to, the Guardians will not have to put in a guy they don't trust outside of Savali.
And that's why I said this yesterday.
I think they trust Savali, too.
They felt really good about going to New York in winning this game with their bullpen.
Yeah.
Like they felt really good. I was talking to somebody who felt like, hey, listen, we've got this set up. We don't need Shane in Game 5. We can get through this with Savali and all our bullpen, have that day off, which they don't have anymore.
Right.
And then reset for Houston with Shane and a full bullpen. That's gone now. They don't have that day off in between. They're going to have to roll from one to the other. But in terms of winning a Game 5 in New York with this bullpen, they felt, I don't know with the day off how that changes it, but I can tell you, leaving Progressive Field, they felt really good about where they were at going into Game 5.
Yeah, they should. And they're a confident team, and every time anybody's wanted to write them off this year, they've proved people wrong.
Yeah,
it's true.
But getting back to something Jay said a little bit ago, the defense, it is a stark difference between these two teams. The Guardians are far superior to the Yankees at almost every position.
You know, some of these blue pits that they have should be outs.
All three of those left field bloops should have been out.
That's what I'm saying.
That ball up the middle should have been stopped. I mean, Jimenez makes that play. The bloop to left, 2 bloops to left, 1 to center. Like they're not getting to ball.
But that's what's so funny is everyone complains, or not everyone, but I've heard from some Yankee fans on Twitter and even some of the writers. They're just blooping the ball. I'm like, well, then go catch it.
Yeah.
Why didn't you make it
by the way, bloops are part of baseball.
Yeah, by a million cuts.
Give me a break.
You know what? 4 of those equals.
And you know what's funny
runs.
is how often, and I thought Meisel had a great line. The bloop troop called them the bloop troop. But I've watched your games all year. They weren't blooping the ball all year.
Yeah,
you know,
they drill the ball too.
But here's the thing, Jason. Yankee fans think if it didn't happen against the Yankees,
it didn't happen at all.
It didn't exist.
That's exactly right.
It's like Anthony Rizzo's here. I didn't know he was a big leaguer.
Mike
Where's he been?
For us.
I got a couple of things real quick. So we talked about yesterday the defensive run saved by Kwan, Straw, and Jimenez.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know who actually leads the league in team defensive run saved? It's the Yankees by 23 runs.
How is that possible?
I have no idea how that stat is calculated.
Yeah.
I do not understand how. The Yankees actually had the #1 defense in the league in terms of defensive
They haven't played.
runs.
They have some good. I mean, Aaron Judge is actually a really good fielder.
outfielder.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is shocking because you wouldn't think it looking at
He
him.
plays center field half the time.
Yeah, Josh Donaldson's always been a really good
in center
fielder.
field in Game 4.
Yeah.
He called off the center fielder Bader because he's by far their best.
Bader's actually a good fielder. He just hasn't played well in the series for whatever reason.
Oh,
but he's known as a defensive guy.
But he's made up for it with that doggone stick
he's
of
hit.
his.
Yeah, and
Oh my God!
I got 2 more
5
things.
home runs in the regular season, 3 in 4 playoff
Amazing.
games.
I got 2 more things real quick, and one of them is we got to read some internet comments. But just like in the Browns game on Sunday, I know a lot of people from going to school in Boston and seeing the dichotomy of back-to-back tweets from Browns fans and Patriot fans saying that's the worst call I've ever seen and that's blatant. It's funny watching the I grew up in New Jersey, watching the Yankees fans and the
Oh,
Guardians
they think
fans
the
go,
umpiring has been
"It
all
is-"
for Cleveland.
Really?
And Cleveland fans think it's been all for it's hysterical.
Oh, the
watching
umpiring
it.
has been fine. Everybody gets so
There's
carried
misses
away.
both ways.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is what Jason said a second ago. If the Guardians score early, there's going to be a catastrophic meltdown.
Oh,
in the
yeah, they're
Yankees.
gonna
They are
panic.
so, and I'm telling you from friends, my dad,
Fragile group.
they are so scared of getting down to this Guardians bullpen and having to deal with the Karinchaks, the Clases.
And they should
that
be.
it could absolutely crumble immediately. I think whoever said, I'm not sure, I think it was Jay or Jason or
Jay.
maybe Will or even G. Whoever scores first is in the
huge
driver's
advantage.
seat. And I know that's an easy, obvious, Captain Obvious statement, but it means even more tonight. We got to read some internet comments.
By the
One
way,
more thing really quickly.
go ahead.
One more thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to this. We're not ending the conversation.
Okay, just quickly on Savali. I think we tend to look at him as the pitcher he's been this year.
Yeah.
And,
Right,
and
he was
that's,
good
that's
in
what you do.
September.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
do. He's 5-6 with an ERA just under 5.
Right.
Tito made a really interesting comment yesterday when talking about Savali, who, by the way, in 2021 was 12-5 with an ERA in the 3s. So he was very good last year. Tito made a comment yesterday. I'm going to paraphrase. I hope I get this close to right. He said, Savali has thrown very well this year since the injuries have been behind him. So, and you can understand that. When a guy's pitching hurt, he's just not at his best. It goes to the 3 days rest theory. When you go out there and you've got a bad shoulder, you know it's a bad shoulder. You're struggling with your command. You're overthinking everything. I do think that he can be the guy that we had in 2021. tonight. I believe he can be that
I don't think
guy.
he's bad. I think he's fine. He is the homer prone in a home run ballpark.
Yep.
And that makes me
That
nervous.
scares me.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if anybody cares or not, but I got texts from about 10 friends of mine in New York who are most of my friends from New York are Met fans, and they're all rooting hard for the Guardians.
Sure they
Of course they are.
They don't want to see the Yankees.
They hate the
in
Yankees.
fans.
If the Guardians are up 3-0 after the third, maybe Savali does you go batter by batter at that point.
Yeah.
And you give him
With a short
little bit.
leash.
Yeah. But I just don't think, regardless, I don't think he's seen more than one batter.
He could be. They could,
One time through the line.
if they're up 3-0, he could have struck out like 7 of 9 batters. He gives up 1 hit, he's out.
I
can
totally
see
agree.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of
they
game
don't
it
mess
is.
around,
I mean,
right?
that's what managers do in these games.
In these games, they're
as much
quick.
as they talk about you don't change anything.
Oh, they
of course
do.
you do.
Of
You
course
change
you do.
it.
Of course
you
you
change
do.
it in baseball.
One matchup to watch tonight, by the way, Rizzo 5 for 10 in his lifetime with 2 home runs and a double off Savali. So
Oh,
we
boy.
certainly won't see
I don't like
Rizzo
him.
twice.
I don't like him either.
We do have to do what the internet says real quick. We asked the
I don't
internet
like
this
that
morning
stat at all.
if you would start Shane Bieber on short rest or if you'd go with Aaron Savali. We know Tito went with Savali, but let you know what the internet says. And whenever we ask the internet a question, it's brought to us by our good friends at PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So the question was,
You down with PCC?
Yeah, you know me.
I have another jingle. We got to
I'm glad you didn't go Billy Joel.
Yeah,
But,
we went away from them there.
it was Savali or Bieber. We know they're going with Savali, but this is what the internet had to say before that announcement was made. This is from Dave. Dave says, all hands on deck, right? Well, you would assume if that's the case, it'd be Bieber, but they are not going. Let's see the next one, Anthony. No, you start Savali. Don't change your game plan because of one day. Not sure I agree with that or not. Next one. I'd rather have Bieber, but I understand why the choice is Savali. And last but not least, Bieber, no-brainer. So a pretty mixed bag from the 45 answers we got.
What's really interesting about this is we have kind of a test case within this little experiment because the Guardians are choosing to not go their ace on
Right.
short rest, and the Yankees are choosing to go with their number 2 on short rest.
Yeah, I
so
mean-
not that this will definitively settle the
No,
argument.
sure.
But I thought the numbers that Mike showed, it shows which way the wind's blowing in this
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
And it'll be fun to watch this play out in real time. Is Cortes as dominant as he can be?
Yeah.
Will, Savali be able to shore this ship and hold the Guardians in this series?
And if Bieber didn't have the shoulder injury last year, I think Shane's starting tonight.
He might.
I agree with that.
I mean, and
They're being
listen,
extra
Francona
cautious.
Yeah.
in 2016 went 3 days rest all the time.
Yep.
He had his team wasn't the same team. They didn't have the starting pitchers, but and not only is Nestor a 2 and Bieber a 1, but the gap between Bieber and Savali is much bigger than the gap between Nestor and Tyone.
I agree with
it's a
that.
much
Yes,
bigger gap,
I agree with that.
So, but I mean, I don't know. I really like their chances. I think it's more likely that Bieber though comes out of the pen. I'm not going to be surprised if he comes out of the pen.
I'm with you. I won't be surprised at all
Yeah.
if he pitches out of the bullpen.
Jason, I have a question for you, and it's actually a super chat question. Ooh. This is from Always Balling 7. If Bieber goes today from the bullpen, what's the max he can throw that he's available for a potential Game 1 versus Houston, assuming they win tonight?
No, if he throws, he's not available.
He's not
He's not
pitching.
available.
If he pitches 1 inning, he is not available.
Is
Yeah.
the day off in the ALCS between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 this time?
I
can't remember.
2 and 3, I believe.
That would
I
make sense
believe
because
it's
that
2
would be the
and 3.
travel day. You'd
Right,
go
but
1
they
and
don't.
2.
It's been screwy this
Yeah,
year.
I
'cause of
know.
the-
Yeah, but I think it's 2 and
I
3.
know.
The
Okay.
day off is
So
between
he
2 and 3.
still. I mean, if he pitched like 12 pitches, maybe he could pitch Game 2.
But they're not going to do that.
But I don't
no.
think so.
Yeah, they could do that, but you wouldn't.
Well, because you know what? If you pitched him Game 3, in theory, you'd have him for Game 7. And McKenzie will go Game 1 if they get there.
Yeah, let's get there.
You gotta get there
That's what I
first,
say.
but-
And you know what? Look, I know Bieber's better. I'd rather have Bieber, but
Yeah.
Tristan McKenzie is a 1A. He's not a 2. I think he's a 1A. With the way he's developed even throughout this year,
Yeah.
he's a guy that has 2 fantastic pitches. So he can set up the curveball with the fastball.
Yeah.
He locates well. a lot of teams in Major League Baseball would love to have him on their roster,
doubt.
and he would be their number one.
And guys, let's face it, the Astros at this point are the overwhelming favorites to win the World Series. They're the best team, there's no doubt.
Yeah, they
now,
are.
as we've seen with the Dodgers, with the Mets, with the Braves, and hopefully the Yankees, the best team doesn't always win. But it's going to take a lot to beat the Astros. So in the end, if you got to move Bieber to Game 2 or Game 3, so be it.
Right.
The Guardians have been scrappy all year. I feel like if they can beat the Yankees tonight, they can beat anybody. I really believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw up a white flag against the Astros.
No chance.
I wouldn't.
Well, I will tell you what, man. One thing that is very important is if you want to do a super chat, you could do just like the last guy that called in. If you want to get your comment read on air really quickly, maybe you just want to pause the show and ask a random question. There you go. Go ahead and super chat. You could direct it to whoever you want. You could direct it to the panel. And as a matter of fact, don't forget, big day for UCSS. We got 2 post-game shows coming up on Wednesday. Is that correct?
No, one today.
One today.
Well, 2 on Wednesday if the Guardians win today.
No. If the Guardians win, there's only a Guardians post-game show. There's no Cavs post-game show. They'll be at the same time.
So, but if they lose.
they wouldn't.
If they
Yeah,
lose.
they'd be at the same time.
Yeah, both games, 7:30 start for the Cavs.
Yeah, but the Cavs game would end before the Guardians game.
But then it
Yeah,
turns
but
into
you
a
wouldn't
whole-
want to run a Cavs post game while you guys want to watch the Guardians.
That's true. Good
Either or, if you subscribe, you'll know which post game we're going to run.
Yeah, go to
It'll pop
YouTube
up.
and subscribe. Where are we now, guys? We're on subscribers. We're like over 16,000.
16,200.
On the road to
subscribers.
20,000.
16,300.
And just under 3 million views, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
On the road.
Yeah.
The
That's
little
crazy.
show that could.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Guardians of YouTube shows.
That's all we need the Guardians to win, though. Winning in Cleveland is very good for business. So
hold on.
we need the Browns
You
to
aren't
win.
kidding.
We need the Guardians to win. We need the Cavs to get hot out the start.
No, we hide this on the internet. We not the Guardians. We do our thing. Ain't nobody. They don't. Well, I guess there's no other show like this, but on the internet we popping.
No doubt about
right.
it. Okay, do we want to do predictions?
Yes.
Before we put the Guardians talk to bed for now?
Yeah, I got them winning. I've been confident all along. I thought they'd win Game 5.
You got a score?
I
Want to go
love
that
it.
far?
I'll go 5-3.
Dang.
All right.
This guy.
Jay?
I was thinking 5-3.
I
So
was too.
I'll say 4-2 to mix it up a little bit.
All right.
I just
Hey,
would
we're
like
all
to see that.
close.
I think they're going to win maybe 4-3.
That's my number, 4-3.
Holding the Yankees to 2 is probably not realistic. They're going to score. They're going to hit a home run. The place is going to shake, and you're going to have to pull it back together and move on from that. I just hope that they don't burn through everyone tonight.
Right.
I hope that there's something left over for Wednesday. And I know you got to win first. You can't worry about Wednesday until you get to Wednesday.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm really disappointed that it played out yesterday the way that it did. They didn't have that day off in between.
Right.
Because now whatever you use today, you're probably not going to have tomorrow.
I was gonna go 5-3. I'm gonna go 5-4. I think the Yankees hit actually 2 solo home runs, right? And they'll get another 2-run home run. So they'll score all of home runs, but the Guardians will end up winning at 5-4.
All right, I got it 4-3. So we're all really close. We're all in the neighborhood. One interesting scenario that if you let your mind drift to dreamland, one really interesting scenario would be that the Guardians get this done with a bullpen game, without using Bieber. They get the win. Bieber goes 9 complete to save the bullpen in Game 1. Then you're right where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got McKenzie on full rest and your bullpen with at least a full day under their belt with no work. Highly unlikely that Bieber could go 9.
Right.
But stranger things have happened.
Even
Stranger
if they could squeeze Eli Morgan for 1 or 2.
Right.
I mean, he pitched well.
He did pitch
in
well.
Guys,
Game 4.
depending on
he
how
looked
much
good.
they pitch, I mean, some of these guys will be able to pitch 2 days in a row. They're not all going to throw 30 pitches.
Well, and that's the thing. Like we keep assuming. I
Right.
mentioned this yesterday. We keep assuming everyone's going to be on point. No one's going to get hit. Stefan's going to give them 2. Karinchak's going to give them 2. Classe 2
Right.
and a few. That's why I keep like 2 1/3, 2 2/3.
Sure. Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hit in there and going to get an early hook and then be available to come
Or
back.
Savali could dominate. They could be up, and maybe he goes 5 innings. Who the hell knows? Crazier things have
Classe,
happened.
I like that you say 2 and a few because it's one scenario that I see playing out is Classe coming in within an inning.
Yes.
Yeah, in a big spot.
If they get in a jam and they're second and third, 2 outs, I would not be. In fact, I would expect Clase would come in, finish that inning, and then give them whatever he could after that.
Yeah, he could be in the 7th. I wonder, is there a scenario where he comes in the 5th and Karinchak closes it out?
I don't see
if it's
it.
a big spot. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I would lean more heavily on Clase coming in the middle of an inning to close things out than I would Karinchak. So I think that's very possible.
But in the 5th inning,
I'm
well,
just
look,
saying.
you got to play every inning like
hear
it's
you.
the 9th. Really.
Yeah, but I
Maybe
still think
that's a
he's-
bad example. Maybe
Yeah.
it's the 6th. You know, where maybe it's the last time through
Maybe.
for Judge and Stanton.
It depends on the
It's a big spot in the
situation.
game.
It
listen,
really
you
does. If
never
it's a
know.
one-run game and they've got 2 on with 1 or 2 out in an inning, I wouldn't discount the idea that he brings Clase in to close that inning out, give them whatever he can on the backside of that, and then who do you have left? When you get into an extra innings game and you fire Clase in the 9th, you go to the middle part of your bullpen to close it out anyhow.
Yeah.
And he's got a good bullpen top to bottom. And, you know, we remember, like, in the 2016 World Series, you had Francona and Joe Madden, 2 of the all-time best managers, and they did all kinds of crazy stuff in that series. There was Andrew Miller was coming in 4th inning, 5th inning.
It was
Aroldis Chapman throwing like 50,
They kind
60
of changed
pitches.
baseball, too.
I was just going to say that. Tito's the one that really reworked this whole bullpen thing.
absolutely did.
And everyone started rethinking the closer role
Yeah.
and
It
all
became
that.
more
It was all
about
because of Terry
since
Francona.
then, it's been more about bullpen than starting pitching.
Yeah.
It really has.
In the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you got that 7th inning guy, that 8th inning guy,
Yeah.
that 9th inning guy.
And that's what the Guardians have, and the Yankees really don't have that.
If they have the lead after 6, because this is the idea of shortening games, which Tito talked about in 16. If you have the lead after 6, and you can go Stefan 1, Karinchak 1, Clase 1, I'd be stunned if they blow that lead with that setup.
Yeah, I'd say
Can I ask one
99%.
question before we bring in Coach Kyle? here?
Absolutely.
Aaron Judge has not had a major impact on this series yet offensively. Just
the
purely-
home run.
Just that's it. It's only hit.
And a lot of strikeouts.
Are you guys scared at all
Yes.
that he's due for a breakout
He's
game?
Paul
here?
Bunyan.
Yes.
I'm very scared.
He's a great player, and even though he's a Yankee, he seems beyond likable. But I'm not
is.
scared. I'm not scared because and I know it could change at any moment because he's that good, but they really have had his number forever.
Well, that scares me because baseball, the longer the sample size
I
grows,
agree.
Sooner or
the more
later.
likely he regresses to the norm,
Yep.
which is home runs.
By the way,
Superstars
let
are
me
superstars.
throw one last thing out here. I have this bizarre hunch that Austin Hedges is going to hit a home run tonight. I don't know what it is.
I
It's
don't
in
think
my
happens,
belly
you
all
will not have
day.
to buy the Baker Mayfield jersey.
No nonsense. He's not off the hook for that.
No, I'm not.
But I will
No.
tell you how
I already
ironic would
ordered. I
that
already
be?
ordered the Baker jersey. It's too late.
You've killed this guy all season long, and every time
Yeah.
you do, he comes up big with a home run the next day.
Well, I've been killing him for 2 months. He hasn't gotten a big hit in 2 months, so I think that's out the window.
Can
But
you kill him right now?
I
Just
have, no.
Lay it on him.
I'm telling you, I got a hunch about Austin Hedges. If it's not a home run, he's going to get a big hit.
All
I
right.
feel something good for him tonight.
That would be great.
You talk about due. That guy's had a big hit in 3 months.
All right, we're going to pivot. We have a legend in the building, and this is the second time he's been here with us on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. He's the head coach of St. Ignatius High School. This is his last season. Let's welcome to the program Chuck Kyle. Coach, it is great to have you in.
Oh, that's all right.
Welcome back.
Take your
Yeah,
time.
Anthony is our audio one tech. He'll get you all dialed in with the microphone and the earpiece.
All right, thank you.
Coach, how are you? It's great to see you again.
I'm doing well. I'm doing fine.
Very good.
We're going to be in the playoffs, so good. And
You are in the playoffs?
yeah, we're made it already.
Yeah,
we
just
have another
on-
game,
On strength of schedule,
Okay.
you're going to get there? Or?
but man,
He's a pain in the neck. Sorry.
Now, Coach, are they still working? They do that on computer points, right? Or are they
Right.
still doing that the same format?
right, almost the same format. They are computer points, but now it's you get 16 teams into it, so it's basically in your region, almost every team makes it.
Yeah.
Almost
Okay.
every team.
Very
So
good.
That's fine.
So how was it's so interesting when a coach or a player is in the midst of that final ride. Sometimes they say that for all of the years that they've been doing it, they did not take it for granted, but you always assume it's going to be a part of your life. How has this final ride, so to speak, for you been to this point?
You always do think it's going to be part of your life, to be honest
You
with you. You do. There's moments where you're like, you're thinking of the younger kids, right? And you're watching them improve, and you're going, well, next year we could play them here and maybe get this. And you're going, wait a minute, I'm not going to be doing that. What am I doing, right?
Yeah.
But it's just by nature you do that. But there's moments where you go, I'm tired. When you do these things, it's 7 days a week, and it's just a lot of work.
What does your week look like?
You did. Well, we play a number of Saturday games, so that's.
Coach, if you'd like to take that out, you can take that out.
Yeah,
Mike,
this
if
thing
you
is
need
not.
to talk to him.
I don't know.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
But it's,
we'll
it's
hear you.
one of those
Yeah,
pain in the neck deals that.
Are you able to watch the Guardians at all? That's the question.
Yes, but it's sort of in and out.
Yeah. Background.
Right.
While you're doing things.
You're listening. And, they got a runner on. Okay, here we go. Click. Hold that.
Yeah.
Hold the off tackle play. Here we go.
That's great.
See that. But there's moments. Like I said, 7 days a week. You play a Saturday game. Well, Sunday you're there at 9 in the morning, and you probably go till like 2, and you don't have everything done, but you break down the game you just played. Now here's with the way modern technology is, you exchange films. You don't have to drive down the road or meet the Canton guys halfway there.
Right over the email, right?
Yeah. Now you just push a button, you send it. So that's good. That used to be crazy to drive down the road and try to find somebody. But anyway, you got to break down that film because on Monday you're out there on the field and the kids are. It's a lighter practice if it's going to be a Saturday game. It's a harder practice if it's. Well, we had a Saturday game, but then the next week it's a Friday game. Well,
and you do that a number of times every year.
And you lose a day.
Yeah.
So you got to turn right out on Monday and okay, here's what we're doing. Here's what they do. Let's get out here and work on it. So anyway, so it's like I said, 7 days a week, and what keeps you going? And I think even younger coaches will tell you it's the adrenaline that keeps you going. I think any coach would tell you that. If you talk to Tito right now, it's the adrenaline that keeps you going.
Yeah.
I mean, you're tired and drained, but you start getting into it, and hey, what if, and you start. Football is every snap of the ball. There's 22 variables. Mm-hmm. They're 11 and are 11. Yeah. And you can diagram every play, and every play you diagram goes for a touchdown. Isn't it a miracle? It's amazing how we can get in the end zone. Yeah, but then again, no.
Yeah. Coach, when you, this season, obviously you guys play a tough schedule every year, 5-3 right now. When you, against the teams you've played this year, have there been some standout players that you've played against?
Right, yes. You look at the Akron Hoban, their running back probably is going to be a top candidate for the Player of the Year in Ohio.
Yeah.
Mr. Ohio, whatever they would do on that. He's very, very good. St. Ed's has 2 very good defensive ends, very good.
Yeah.
And other good players too, but they're. I know Kilbane's going to Northwestern, and those guys coming off the corner cause a lot of problems.
Yeah,
they're very good. Mentor has the defensive end that's going to Notre Dame. And
right.
Either he grew an inch before our game, or I'm shrinking.
Yeah.
Because wow, is he big? And he could move.
Sure.
So, and there's we do play.
Right.
We play a River Rouge out of Michigan, Detroit, and that receiver's going to Michigan State, and that DB is going. You're like, okay, they're all there's a lot of Division I.
Typical year in Ohio, really.
Yes, and going around. So, it's a challenge to this, and you always have to adjust a little bit to. All right, this is their favorite receiver, so we have to bracket him a little bit and work with that. So there's all that work you have to put in, but gives you. I think coaches basically. You stay awake till like 2 in the morning for one reason, and it's just what drives you crazy is you just want to put the kids in the position they can win. You don't want to have that moment where we misaligned the kid or we didn't give them a chance to make the play. They're going to make the play. It's their game, but you spend ridiculous hours just making sure you can put them in a position where they can make the play. So,
have you had a particular moment during this season where it's hit you in the moment that this is your final season, or will that happen in your last regular season game, in your first playoff game?
Well, honestly, not while you're practicing. I have not experienced that at all while I'm practicing. While I'm practicing, here's what we're doing.
Sure.
Let's work this. Come on, kid, get this technique right. There'll be the tendencies they're going to try to run the counter here, so you're going to squeeze things like that.
Right.
And that's what I enjoy about coaching is that part of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the things that gets you a little bit is you fall into just going, okay, well, next year when we play them, we'll have to make this adjustment. Yeah, well, I'm not doing that. Okay, that's a little different. And really, why I'm doing it this year, I certainly wanted to do one more year. I felt I'm healthy. I want to do it, but also I felt I'll be honest with you, responsible to help the younger coaches. Whatever they need.
The transition.
Right? Yeah, I want the transition to be very easy.
Have you
for the
pulled
kids.
back, knowing that it's going to be someone else's next year?
Well, I know it's going to be Ryan Franzinger who's our defensive coordinator, so that's already set. And I think
So have you given him more responsibilities this year?
Definitely.
Yeah, and
definitely.
How has that been for you?
Good.
I imagine for somebody that's
it's different when he already did that. Oh, okay, I don't have to do that. All right, that sort of thing that happens, and you just. Offensive coordinator, he needs to have his ideas in there.
Sure.
You're trying to just make it comfortable for the kids instead of a wholesale change. It's kind of tough.
Sure.
There's no spring ball, so you know how. So you get those few weeks in August, and you get some camps during the summer. But you want to make it so it's an easy transition for the kids, but you also want the coordinator to feel comfortable. He's got calling the plays and doing that. He's got to feel comfortable. That clock is moving. You got to make that call, and we got to go. So that's been a challenge for me. It's a little different, but
sure.
Maybe you could help the Browns with calling their plays and making the clock.
I don't know.
Coach, what are your thoughts on NIL in high school? How do you think you got out in time, so you probably won't see it, but how do you think that'll affect the high school game?
Worries me tremendously. It does. I'm a guy that believes that the game of football is a tremendous educational atmosphere, tool, whatever you want. And I'm not saying people can earn a living to help the family and so on, but the football field to me is a tremendous classroom. I can sit there in English class and talk about teamwork and working together and setting goals and all that, and kids can sit there and read a book and sit there and go like this the whole class period, and that's wonderful. But when you're out on a football field, you learn so much, and those people that play it know that. You learn so much about life. I fear that what's happening in college, it could trickle down, and you see it becomes almost like a business suddenly. High school athletics become a business. That's scary to me.
Hasn't Ohio already lost a couple of athletes to other states?
Yes, probably.
And the thinking is they'll lose more.
Right. I think more in basketball than football, but I think
Yes.
it's already happened.
Right.
It seems to be more in the forefront with basketball because these top recruits are followed so closely. But Ohio, as you know, Coach, has so much talent.
Right.
And I've heard discussion about Ohio not wanting to fall too far behind the curve. So it might be one of those things where they enact it just to keep up with the Joneses, because the last thing they want to do is start losing their top-tier talent to states that are allowing their high school players to benefit financially from these NIL deals.
Right. I just worry, and I'm repeating myself, but honestly, I just worry you take high school athletics away from the educational aspect of it, and it becomes semi-pro to pro.
Yeah.
Might as well say they're pro athletes.
It would be pro.
Might as
They're
well
getting paid. They're
say
professional.
It's professional.
And in high school, you could make that argument. In college, it's already business.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure
it's
it
already
is.
big business.
But this seems like the last
this is-
bastion of
yeah,
kids doing
it
it
is
for
different.
fun and for love of school.
Right.
And it's.
I wonder how many
it's almost
kids in
like we're
high
losing a
school
piece
are
of our
going to make that
innocence.
much money.
I think, Coach, it's fewer than 1% that this would even affect.
It's the elite of the elite.
Very,
of the
very,
elite.
very
Right.
small number of them.
Right. I don't know if it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for the kid. I mean, to me, hey, you're one of those guys. You get a college education for free. Now, all the parents out here, you've checked tuition lately?
Sure.
I mean, that's
If you're getting 4 years somewhere, that's 150 to 500,000 to above. Even,
that's not a bad pay for a kid already. And what is it? Yeah, you're going to school. You're going to have a degree. How many of those kids are going to make it into pro football? What percentage?
Very small.
Very small. So you hope that they would have that education,
right,
along with the thrill of playing college football. But there's a need to have that next life, and that needs to be the opportunity of having that. To me, that has been lost now. The value of that college scholarship.
Coach,
you don't even hear people talking about it.
I imagine you've been hearing from a number of your former players. Any conversations that you want to share with us, folks that you've heard from? I know you don't want to leave anybody out, but is any, and I'm sure it's been a deluge since you announced that this would be your last year.
Right. Mostly you get text messages and emails and things like that, and a lot of that.
Yeah.
And when people share the magnitude of the effect that I contributed to with the football program is amazing. I don't realize it. You know you're helping the kid. You're there mentoring in a lot of ways, but when kids send stuff back, how they still remember things that happened that you go, this person,
thousands of kids over 40 years.
Right, and really, you can. There's so many that came up on the screen that are amazing, that have gone into some amazing things, and have gone into the pro football, and after that, they're very successful. The amazing emails to me are the guys that were like second team. You know, I know they weren't the stars, but they had this amazing experience to have a teamwork idea with it, and that it affected the way they handle their business and affect the way they work with other people.
Wow.
It's like, how
Coach, if you could put your earpiece in, we have a piece of sound that we want you to react to.
All right, got it? All right. I'm just going to.
He could just hold it in his ear.
Yeah, you don't have
I'll
to
just hold
lock
it
it in there. If you could just kind of hold the
thank
earpiece close so you can hear it. Okay, Mike, if you want, Steve, if you want, you can go ahead and roll it.
My retirement message from him is just like, all the players that you have in the league right now, enjoy us and be on the sideline, enjoy the traditional at Ignatius, enjoy just living, enjoy having your health and your wealth. I'm happy to call you my coach, and I appreciate you.
Now, that was after last night's game.
That was actually at Media Day last week.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it was. They got that last night.
I got it mixed up. That was Media Day last week. They lost yesterday, so I don't think he
did.
Last night.
So they did lose in overtime. Tough loss. They fumbled a punt in overtime and set up the game-winning field goal.
Did you know he was going to be an NFL player?
I knew he was was going to be a very good college football player. That's mostly what I do.
Yeah,
you know
get them ready for the next
level.
For
me to say, oh, he's going to the NFL. He's going to go be. I always look, and it's nice that the colleges respect evaluation. You know.
Sure.
And to me, there was no doubt he was going to be a very, very good college defensive football player. He was a good tight end too.
Was he?
Well, he was a good tight end and a good basketball player. I think originally maybe he thought he was going to be a power forward or something, you know, and he did that. But the football thing started coming. If you talk to other coaches, he has a great motor. He's very athletic, but he has the hands. His hands getting off blocks are amazing. Are amazing.
Yeah.
It just that hand action. Okay, here they are, and they're pumping their hands to block you. His ability to just disrupt that and make the curve leverage-wise, he's really very good.
Coach, before we let you go, tell us what you have left. One left in the regular season, am I right?
Right.
And then it's on to the playoffs. Have you looked ahead to figure out who you might be getting in that first round?
Believe it or not, I just don't feel I have time to worry about that because it changes the last week.
Sure.
It changes, and so right now you could say, well, 2 or 3 teams, but I don't. I'm too busy trying to get ready for the next.
Who do you have in your final regular season game?
Clarkson, Football North out of Canada.
Yeah.
And they beat Menor fairly solidly early in the season. I would just share, I think they're trying to be like a IMG. They're getting kids from all over to get their opportunities to actually play football in the United States. Go to college in the United States. You can tell.
Yeah.
And
They've
you
become a
look
power.
and you look on film and you're going, okay, they have like 5 Division I players out there at least. And you're,
So it won't be easy.
So we're going to have to play here. We're going to definitely play. So that's going to be a challenge. That's all right. And we're actually playing the game at our school, which we've never done before. So if you drive by, you see all these. They brought in all these portable stands to put up to add more seating.
Is that to commemorate your last game?
I interpret it that way.
Yeah,
I don't think I've been always in what they're going to do, but that's fine.
That's cool.
And,
That is kind of
a little different experience. So it's okay. And my whole family's coming in, which sounds like, well, of course they'll be there. Well, okay, 3 of them, the 4 kids are in California. Okay, so they're flying all that, and they're kids
having to deal with this sleet and snow.
Oh yeah, they're gonna love coming to Cleveland, aren't they? They're gonna love it.
The big question is, will you cry, Coach? Will you let it all out? What's going to happen when when it hits fourth quarter stops? What are you going to do?
I'm going to try not to get emotional.
Let it go, Coach. Let it go.
Yeah. When you're playing the game, I really firmly believe I'll be just coaching the game.
Focus.
And maybe that's my little security blanket there.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah. Okay. We got to adjust the blocking scheme here or something like that. That may be helpful on that. Okay. But there is a feeling of satisfaction that the program will be left in the hands of some really good men. And that's important to me.
Yeah.
That's important to me. I just spent, as you know, just a lot of years, and I wouldn't trade a second of my life. Honestly, I'd do this all over again in a heartbeat. It's
That's
so
how you
wonderful.
know you got it right.
It just was great, and I'm very grateful. I have a wife who just understands that. Okay, it's football season. See ya.
Coach, what will you do next fall?
I know. I'll tell you what my wife's saying. We are getting out of the country. If she were sitting here, she wouldn't let me answer that.
Right.
We're out of the country. That's where we're going to go. Because you know what'll happen?
You're going to drift back to the
game, or why don't we go to that one?
Right.
So.
But how will you spend the bulk of your time? Because when you're a football coach, it is all-consuming. And all of a sudden, next fall, when it comes time for you to do what you've done your whole life, that won't be there.
Are you retiring from teaching as well?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Right.
You completely unplugged.
Well, I am doing some work with the Browns with their youth program.
Sure.
So I'm looking at it that I can have a little bit more time to go see how those leagues are doing, right? There's a number of leagues that the Browns are helping out, and I can go see and watch them play and say, are there things coming up that maybe the Browns can help you with or do that? I have a very wonderful experience with the Browns because they're very eager to see how they can help with youth sports and youth football, and so I think they're encouraging me. Please do that. That'll be fun.
Very
so
good.
I won't be totally out of the game.
Yeah.
But maybe a guy my age should be doing that, right? Should be kind of going, okay, we got to get these young kids where it's a safer game, safer technique, playing the game. Because I know I've said this the last time I was here, it's clear to everybody that the number one spectator sport in the United States by far is football. I mean, it's clear. The statistics are ridiculous, but it can't be a gladiator sport. And what do I mean by that? You're watching the athletes in the arena while you sit up in the crowd going, I'm not doing that, but I can watch that happen. Well, how about playing it?
Sure.
Come on out and play it,
Right.
So that's what at my age and my status at this point, I think I could channel my energies into helping in that area.
Well, Coach, congratulations on
All the best.
marvelous career.
Thank you.
Chuck
Appreciate it.
Kyle, coming to the end of a 40-year career as the head coach of St. Ignatius. Coach, thanks again for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Greatly appreciate
A lot of
it.
fun. Thank
And
you.
from high school football, we pivot to the NBA. Brad Sellers, 60 seconds, which they've never been 60 seconds, more like 3 minutes, with Campy Russell. Check it out. Coach, thank you.
Brad Sellers, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, here with Cavalier legend Campy Russell. Campy, who does Cavalier TV, analyst work for the Cavs. Campy, talk about the excitement built around this team now that Donovan Mitchell has joined the fray here.
Well, Bradley, as you know, and I've always called you Bradley, but Brad, as you know, there is a lot of excitement about this basketball team, and I think it just goes back to the people who we have added to this basketball team, and it definitely started with Donovan Mitchell. A dynamic player, a guy that creates all kinds of problems on both ends of the floor. He's definitely going to add a whole lot more value to this basketball team, along with the guys that we already have. Last year, as you know, we were really, really good as a basketball team, and having Donovan as well as having these other guys increase their roles as well as getting stronger and feeling more confident as a team, I'm looking forward to watching a very good Cleveland Cavalier basketball team that's going to compete at a high level all season long.
Well, Campy, you know this team inside and out. And talk about the job that Kobe Altman has done and the front office staff has done to put us in a position to be successful.
When you talk about Kobe Altman, Kobe has done a great job of understanding what he needed for this basketball team, along with Coach Baker's staff. And they've had the resources to go out and do that and get the right people. So when you look at Kobe, I just think he's the guy that has a great vision, a great feel for this team, a great understanding of what need to be added to this basketball team to continue to allow them to go to the next level. So you have to give a lot of credit to Kobe in terms of his vision and just understanding where he wants to go and where he wants to take this team, and he's done a great job of that.
And finally, Campy, talk about how this team is built for the future and longevity. So much youth was on this team. Talk about how that positions this team and this club to move forward.
I think that goes back to Kobe Altman, understanding that it's about youth, it's about talent, it's about putting all these guys in the right place to be successful. And Kobe has done that. And you look at this team as a whole, the sky is the limit, because we're talking about a lot of young guys who have a lot of talent, have a lot of will, have a lot of determination, and they're willing to play the game the right way. So when you put all those elements together, you're looking at longevity, because you're talking about youth, you're talking about skill set, you're talking about size, and when all those elements come together, you can't do anything but have a very successful team, and I think we're moving in that direction.
You heard it first here. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show with Cavalier legend Campy Russell does Cavalier TV, giving his first post-game analysis for this upcoming season for the 22-23 Cleveland Cavalier season. Thank you, Campy.
All right, and thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad. Every time, there it is. There's the signature right next to Bernie Kosar on our Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show board.
Man, we got to have people back in. We got Coach Kyle the second time, which is good, so he can go sign the board. But we didn't have people all up in here and ain't signed that board yet, man.
I know, we really didn't.
We dropped the ball.
I had thought about it probably 3 or 4 months into the show. I had mentioned that on Cold Pizza we had the signature board with our logo, and they would sign it, and about every 3 months when it would be full, we would auction them off, and they would go for ridiculous money because everybody came through New York. So, I mean, it was A-list, all filled with A-list signatures. So it'll take us a while to get that thing filled, but eventually maybe we can raise some money for some charities in Northeast Ohio.
And the NBA, by the way, the NBA season starts tonight, of course, with 2 games.
Oh, really? Well, who's playing?
I don't even know who's playing tonight.
Yeah,
Lakers Warriors.
I knew the Lakers were on the schedule. Oh,
tonight.
wow, Lakers Warriors right
Off bat?
Dang.
Oh, they always start big.
I might have to watch that. Like,
And then the Cavs play their first game tomorrow in Toronto.
Also, Philly-Boston is the first game, doubleheader on TNT.
Well, that was the other thing we were talking.
matchup.
That was the other thing we were talking about yesterday with the game time today of the Guardians. What do you do? And you made the great point. Well, you don't have to go against Monday Night Football if you move it to today. But TNT's got the games tonight, so TBS doesn't want to put baseball and suck viewers away from basketball.
Right.
So they found that sweet spot. I was under the impression it was going to be 1 o'clock. I kept saying
4
one,
o'clock's
one,
better.
one,
At least
one.
kids can watch it. You know,
You get the
that's
kids.
part of the reason you don't want to play the game at 10, 11 at night.
Right.
Kids can't watch it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that they care that much,
So
but they should.
You play at 4 o'clock. The winner can get to Houston a little bit earlier than a 7 o'clock game. So they found that sweet spot for 4 o'clock.
Obviously,
start
the number is at its biggest when you can put that game in prime time.
Yes.
Sure.
And it's interesting. Historically, Major League Baseball playoff games, unless it's the World Series, lose big to Monday Night Football. But I got to tell you guys, the product this year in the NFL is as bad as I've seen it in a long time.
Jay, we was talking about that week 2.
I went right in early on
week
that.
2, and I'm interested to see what you guys think about it in general. Like the product, the passing game, the overall productivity, offensively, and defense,
Crispness.
it's just not there.
It's
It's
weird
not.
because you would think like the offense has been down for the first time in forever.
Yep.
And I still want to see the whole season to see if that changes. But you'd think it's like, okay, there's a bunch of like elite defensive teams, and I just don't see that either.
The Bills right now are the #1 defense in the NFL. The
Right.
Bills.
Yeah, maybe.
And guys, the way I don't know that there's a team that's going to stop Buffalo. I think this could be one of the most boring seasons / postseasons that we've had in a long time, because we had the debate earlier this week.
Yeah.
The one time that you wanted to kill all of us. You were absolutely filled with hate.
Yes.
We're talking about what's better, the great offense or the great defense.
Yeah.
Well, we got a team right now that has both. And everybody
They do.
else to me looks pedestrian.
Can you imagine
Tom
if-
Brady against the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers last week. What are we looking at?
There's 3 good teams in the NFL. There's 3: the Bulls, the Chiefs,
The Bills.
the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. There's 3 teams.
It is early though. It is early.
I
There are
know,
some
but
teams that-
it's not like we're 3
I'm not
weeks
saying
in.
they're going to be in the Super Bowl.
it's week
Right.
7.
We're in week 7 now.
Agreed.
But
And-
I actually do think they're going to be. It's
most
a Bills,
of the
Eagles
teams
Super
in the
Bowl.
NFL look very mediocre. There's not a lot of awful teams either. Everybody kind of looks like
I think you're right
average
about
or
that.
a little
There's
below.
like 20 that are grouped in the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's 6 that are really, really bad.
Yeah.
And there's probably 6 that you can consider
There'll
right
be
now
some other
could win.
teams. There'll be some other teams that may have gotten off the slow starts that will pick it
Well,
up and look
Cincinnati
better
last
lately.
year, nobody would have
Right.
picked them after the
You know, we'll
Browns.
see. But
Especially
exactly.
given all these quarterbacks too, the quarterback play has just been
It's just
bad.
head scratching.
It just
Russell
had-
Wilson sucks. Matt
been
Stafford
Russell
sucks.
Wilson is horrible.
Russell,
Like-
Wilson, Rodgers, and Brady all look kind of shocked.
Also-
look terrible.
That is a big contract that man just signed.
You
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
kidding. And
A
that could have
big
been
contract.
the Browns. What were the actual numbers? Do we know what the last offer the Browns had on the table to Baker Mayfield? Do we know what that
They never
number
made
was?
an offer.
Because I had heard that they silently threw a number out to his team, and his team said, "You're not close."
It's my understanding they never made an offer.
Interesting.
Maybe
Okay.
they made an unofficial offer that was so
That's what
poor
I
that he
heard.
was
I
never
heard that
gonna
there was an
take.
unofficial number
Who knows?
that was floated around as a starting point, and
Yeah.
the response was, "You're way off." And the Browns were like, "Well, then we
Yeah.
got nothing to do
We
here."
have nothing to
Yeah,
talk
And
about.
so they may have been saved. Because imagine if you're the Broncos and you're looking at that deal.
Right.
Wow.
What's funny is in the first quarter last night, he started like 10
He
for
looked
10.
great.
And then he just couldn't complete a pass the rest of the
You
night.
got good Russell and bad Russell.
But he's
and
mostly been bad, Russell. It's pretty much the whole season.
I got a theory. I think
What's your theory here?
my theory of why teams are looking the way they look. I think that when you look at the rules and they don't want people to get hurt, the fundamentals of playing football happened in the offseason, right? And they drill that stuff. But now they don't tackle, right? So you don't ever
But that's
tackle.
been going on a while. Why all of a sudden?
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You don't get bad overnight. You slowly but surely get to a place where, think about it, if you don't get out of shape overnight, you just start eating bad. And then 4 months later, you're like, wow, I need to go ahead and do this. With football fundamentals, if you're not teaching tackling because you don't do it, people rarely play their guys in the preseason. And you got a mix of guys that really don't interact with each other. Like, guys train on their own over here and train right. Usually back in the day, you had 2 practices. You knew you was tackling. You knew you was going to do all of the stuff that you needed to do. And now because of the safety angles, they don't do the things that – it's like saying in basketball, we're not going to shoot the ball. No, you got to shoot.
that's the building block of
That's
the sport.
that's the
Coach
sport.
even talked about it. He talked about, the fundamentals
Right.
of tackling and going through and doing that again. And I wonder, there might be something to that.
But why does –
But if that's the case, the offensive numbers should be through the roof.
That's what I was going to say. I get it. I agree with you, right? And over time, you're right. The less you do the fundamentals of tackling, the worse, in theory, the younger players. You're going to have more and more younger players who have practiced less.
It just seems to me like the defenses overnight caught up. And I wonder. Let me throw this out as a theory.
Yeah. Except here.
The league, except for us. The league is a copycat league. They see what teams that are successful are doing, and then they emulate it. And I think because of that, it's like a pendulum that goes this way. Offense is very important. And then it kind of, we've neglected the defense, and then it swings back defensively. I wonder if anybody's done any analytics work on the draft. How many players are typically taken on the offensive side during drafts? How many are taken on the defensive side? First round, overall, have we seen a shift to where teams are starting to put more attention on defense because the offenses were so good? Look at the Bills. The Bills knew our offense is great.
Yeah.
We have to rework our defense.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of emphasis on that side of the ball. It's stunning to me they're the top-ranked defense.
Leslie Frazier's done a phenomenal job.
Oh, my God.
Because he deserves, if anybody deserves a head coaching job,
it's him.
It's Leslie Frazier.
Yeah, you're absolutely
And all the injuries that they've had on the defensive side.
Yeah,
this year
it's true.
as well.
They've had a ton.
Imagine
they actually get a good running back there.
I wonder if is Carolina more likely if they're. I think you should be in. I know it's week 6. You hate to be in dismantle mode already, but they fired their coach.
Yep.
They traded one of their star receivers.
Fire sale.
I wonder if they don't make a deal with Buffalo, and if they do, the other 31 teams are going to groan and exhale all at the same time.
By the way,
because if you put Christian McCaffrey on the Bills and he stays healthy, this thing's a wrap.
I'll tell you something else. It doesn't even have to be McCaffrey. If he's too big a price,
it could
be Kareem Hunt.
Could be Kareem Hunt.
Woo!
And on that note, should the Browns be in the market? Should they be shopping Kareem Hunt? They're not using him.
Yeah, I don't think they should today. But if they lose their next 2 games, they should.
Possible.
Right, because the trade deadline's been pushed back in recent years. I can't remember what week it's after.
Yeah, I can't either. I think
we got
it's
at least
middle of
another
the year
couple of weeks.
now.
If they're 2-6, then they should absolutely trade Kareem Hunt.
Get what you can for him.
Because he's not going to be here next year, G.
What
I
do
know
you
you
get
think
for
he
him?
should, but he's not going to.
What do you even get for him?
No, I'm
not a lot.
3rd round, 4th round, I don't know.
Wouldn't
I
you
might even
take
just try
any
to get a
pick back,
player.
though, after the Watson trade where you depleted your draft
Yeah,
capital?
you
Wouldn't you take
need
anything
picks.
back from him in that set?
Yeah, I mean, you take whatever you can get back because.
Well, yeah, I guess it would have to be worth more than the compensatory pick you would get from him.
Right.
Yeah.
But the compensatory pick you have to wait an extra year for. But, yeah, I mean, if you can get a 3rd-round pick, which I bet you can get a 3rd-round pick.
The benefit of sucking is that you get a good pick.
Yeah.
The Browns don't have that luxury.
No, but in the
If they finish 26th and would have the 6th pick in the draft,
that's why.
That's gone.
Think about this.
That's why that move
right.
can be so punitive
And
to
that-
this
and-
organization.
Right, but if Watson ends up being the guy, it won't matter.
But
I feel
that's-
a lot less confident today than I ever have.
That's
about
why
that.
I'm so, when people say they punted on this season, I go, no. There's no way you can punt on this season, and you have draft capital in Deshaun Watson. You don't have 1st-round picks. So the thought process that you're going to just be bad and not do it.
Yeah, but G. Bush, if you're 2-6, and that's what they're staring at right now.
I get it.
You can't think that we're in this thing to win it at 2-6.
No, what I'm saying is they should have been thinking about this before the season started.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right.
No, I agree with that.
Like, if you got all that.
No, I don't think they were ever punting the season on purpose.
No,
But
not at all.
I mean, I don't want to relitigate yesterday,
Yeah.
but this is the point I've been making is when the suspension went to 11 games, you're screwed. You knew you were screwed.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything about it. They went with Jacoby Brissett and said, we're just going to ride or die with Jacoby
By
Brissett.
the way, and not that this should surprise anybody, but I think Garoppolo's looked pretty damn good this year.
Although they just lost this weekend.
He was
No,
terrible.
they did lose, but I mean, his numbers at one point, I was checking on Sunday.
Yeah.
At one point, I think he hit his first 11 throws. I don't know what the difference would have been. I feel like with great quarterback play, this team isn't 2-4. They're maybe 5-1.
Yeah, but I don't think Garoppolo gives you great quarterback play. He gives you
better.
Gives you better than what
competent
you had.
quarterback
He gives
play.
you better than what you've got.
With
you know,
Deshaun Watson, I think they're 5-1.
I would love to ask Andrew Berry. I would
We'll
love
never
to
know.
ask him, like, hey, you do what defensive tackles you had, right? Like, you did. There wasn't like somebody was hurt and they were bringing them back. It wasn't like you looked at the linebacking core. You know, Anthony Walker, that hurts you, right? But I mean, you got guys that are look like they come off the streets.
Yeah.
So even if you had Deshaun Watson,
Right.
what made you believe that this was going to happen? Because now you're going to at least have to find somebody to plug those holes next year.
Jason, they've clearly devalued that position like they have the linebackers.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I don't either, but that's, I mean, like, the answer to your question is, and he would never be honest, but the real question here is, what value does the organization place on D linemen, interior D linemen, and linebackers that you have so obviously neglected those spots?
Well, they did draft JOK high. Now, he may not be playing well, but they did draft him high.
I still think Anthony Walker's absence has a lot to do with why JOK
Right.
is not playing well. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think linebackers across the league have been devalued.
Yes.
They have been.
And
Yes.
it's
They have
all,
been.
the emphasis is on defensive backs because everybody's playing nickel and dime.
Sure.
So I get that component of it. I think I understand it a little bit more. But I
the
agree.
D-line, I don't.
The tackles,
Yeah, I mean-
particularly, for 2 years now. They did this last year, too.
Yeah, I know.
Where they just get a couple
And they
guys.
had a couple good ones in the organization that they let get away.
I really liked
Ogunjobi.
Thank you.
I
lost
was
his name.
stunned when they let
Yeah,
Ogunjobi
I liked
go.
Ogunjobi. The guy who left and went to the Vikings. Man, I
Sheldon
can't
Richardson.
remember.
Sheldon
Thank you.
Richardson.
I like Sheldon Richardson.
It was those two moves that told me, oh, okay, so they're giving up on that position. They think that they're so strong on the bookends
And
that
they-
the middle doesn't matter.
Or they've misevaluated the guys they brought in at defensive
Well,
back.
Richardson
Possibly,
was
but
cut
they didn't
loose.
put a lot of capital into those guys.
No, they didn't.
They were late
Richardson-
But you
round
can't put a
picks.
lot of capital into every position. They
No,
have put,
you know what?
Yeah.
It was $13 million, right? They didn't want to pay
Well,
Sheldon
after they signed Jadavian is when they cut
Yeah.
Sheldon
Sheldon
Richardson.
Richardson.
You just made a good point. You can't go in on every position.
Yeah.
Give me a team, offensively and defensively, of above average guys without the real superstars. Obviously, you're going to need a superstar at quarterback. I understand that. But the way the Bills have done this, I don't know where their weakness is. Like, you can look at, and this is not a surprise to us. It wasn't a pop quiz. Before this season started, we said, where are the wide receivers?
Yeah.
Where are the linebackers? Even with AWOL healthy, where are the defensive linemen on the interior? Everybody knew that they were deficient at these spots. Well, you got superstar defensive end here, superstar defensive end here, superstar running backs, now a close to superstar and Amari Cooper wide receiver. I think we got too enamored by the big marquee names.
Well,
and OBJ and Landry were another example of that. Instead of just going really solid like we have on the offensive line at every position, spread that wealth.
True, but they're paying a ton of money to two guards on the offensive line. It's not like,
And I'm glad they are.
They got stars at guard. I think
That's where you win, though.
I'll put tight end together with wide receiver. I think in terms of pass catchers, the Browns are fine. I think we made a huge deal about it.
But we're not adept at wide receiver, though.
I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones has been good. He's been good.
He hasn't.
Yeah, he has.
He hasn't. If that's your number 2 receiver, you're going to be exactly where the Browns are, 2 and 4.
Well, I'd say he's their number 3 receiver because I think I'd count
Well,
Njoku.
Njoku has clearly become that guy.
Yeah.
But I just don't think we have enough depth at that position.
I think
at
they're
pass
fine.
catch.
I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is fine. There's good teams with worse number 2 wide receivers than him
They would
or
be,
equal.
we would be okay with it.
Could anybody even name the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver?
Well, you don't need to because they have 8 guys that catch the ball every week.
Yeah, they got
8.
They got Kelsey and Juju Smith.
Go look at their
Schuster
receiving
and-
box
Schuster's
scores.
just a guy.
I mean, he has
They don't
a
have
guy.
that elite standout guy,
Right.
but that's to my point.
Right.
My point is, if you've got 6 guys in that room that are capable of on any given day catching 10 balls, how many guys do the Browns have right now that are capable
I
of
don't
having
think they
10?
have. I think Tyreek Hill's really old. I mean,
Look at their
Travis
Look at their
Kelce.
distribution chart. It's insane.
yeah, but nobody's catching 10 balls besides.
They don't because they don't need
They
them
don't
to.
need-
Right, but none of those guys. Donovan Peoples-Jones is as good as any of their receivers.
I like DPJ this year.
I think he's played well.
I think he's becoming the guy that we
But
thought
beyond
he was.
him, I
there's
agree
such
with
a
you.
drop off after.
Beyond him, I agree with you.
but-
They got
uh,
David Bell's been on a milk cart.
Why don't you believe?
Can't find it.
The way I look at it like this is, I think that Coach Stefanski, and this is just my critique. I think Coach Stefanski has an issue with finding ways to get his best people involved. Even when you go back to Odell Beckham Jr., they couldn't find him. They didn't really spot shadow him. They just couldn't really do it. We said, well, maybe Baker's better spreading it around. Now you get to a point now where you look at Kareem Hunt's, carries. If you are going to say that Nick Chubb is on a pitch count, then that would mean if you're still a running team, the carries that you don't give to him, you give to Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, that didn't happen Sunday.
But you still see that Kareem Hunt's not getting the ball. So my thought process is, what is your philosophy? If you're just saying our philosophy is to be a run-first team, yet you're not distributing the carries to your second back that could really pay dividends, then I'll ask the question, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, I think Kareem Hunt's got a decent amount of carries before this week.
No.
And Nick Chubb is number 2 in the league in carries.
I don't know. I don't think that he's used them well at all.
I used him well. I agree with you. I don't think he's been a part of the offense. I would have liked him to be a bigger part of the offense, especially this past week.
Let's specifically match the Browns' offense with the Ravens' defense and how they attack them. And by the way, since Wink Martindale has left and clearly taken his acumen where he went, the Ravens' defense, I was stunned when I looked up these numbers. I knew they weren't good, but it's been a long time since we've seen a Ravens defense ranked 25th in yards per game and 20th in points per game. The Browns offense, guys, it doesn't feel that way because they're sitting at 2-4. The Browns offense, 4th in yards per game, 7th in points per game. On paper, and I know they play it on grass, on paper, the Browns should be able to roll 30 on this Ravens defense. How do they attack it, Jason? How do they start?
Well, the Ravens last year, it was the first time I've ever seen, with my own eyes, sitting in a press box a game, where a defense put 9 in the box. Baltimore put 9 in the box against Baker last year and said, you can't throw the ball. We don't think you can throw the ball. Try and throw the ball. And they couldn't. They couldn't do it.
They were right.
And I would suspect that we're going to see something similar Sunday. Right. They were so aggressive at trying to stop Nick Chubb. Again, going back to the conversation we had yesterday, every team tries to do it. Bill's just better at it than most. Well, the Ravens totally sold out last year to the run and put 9 in the box and forced the Browns to try and beat them throwing the ball. I would suspect we're probably going to see something similar on
they
Sunday.
Did that against the Giants last week because the Giants, similar to the Browns, don't have a good quarterback right now. They have a great running back in Saquon Barkley, the only guy who has more carries than Nick Chubb. And Saquon had like a good game, but not he had 88 yards, but it was on a lot of carries. Yeah. So he didn't have a great game. I watched a little bit of it later, and I saw the Ravens play against the Bengals the week before, and the Bengals are not running the ball very well, but. I just think, first of all, as you said, Wink Martindale's not there, so their defense is different.
They still have the film. They still know what works.
Right, but
I know, but it's different.
They don't have the talent up front that they've had. The Ravens don't have the talent up front. But they haven't been easy to run on so far. Like Barkley again, the Giants, but they see their defense 4 weeks in a row, the Ravens, has completely, like the Browns, has fallen apart in the second half.
Yeah.
They have blown in the last 4 games, they're 1-3, and they have blown a double-digit lead in all 4 games. 3 ended up being losses. The one against the Bengals, they did come back and win on a game-winning field goal.
I think
they've got their problems too. They're not playing that great.
Everybody in the division is
I'm going to tell you what. And I told myself before I came in here today, man, you know what? I'm no longer looking at any of the previous stats for what the teams do before they come play the Browns. Yeah. I could sit up here all day and say, well, they're struggling too.
Because the Chargers were 32nd in run.
The Browns no longer have the luxury of looking at stats from other teams because obviously those teams are better than we are. If you look at their schedule, look at who they played. We know the Jets is 4-2, right? Mm-hmm. So they played the Jets. They won that football game. Dolphins, we know what the Dolphins looked like when Tua was here. They were a much better team. Now he got a little hurt.
They lost that game.
But they lost that game, and the Dolphins are good. The Patriots.
That's one of the games that blew big
hugely.
We just saw the Patriots. We know what it is, and they played with a third-string quarterback. They've won that game. Then you go to the Bills. They lost to the Bills by 3. We just got done talking about how the Bills is smoking everybody. They lost that game. They played the Bengals. They came back in that game. So you look at the people that the Ravens have played compared to what the Browns have played. They play a better schedule. They play marquee names. They've been close in all those games. And we are now trending till we get beat by Zappies, not Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to have a lot of optimism for the Browns right now. No. But I guarantee you in sports talk radio in Baltimore and Cincinnati, they're having the same conversations about the team being disappointing. Maybe not to the degree that we are, because the Browns are 2-4 and those teams are 3-3. But those teams went in with higher expectations, at least early, because they had their quarterbacks, and the Browns don't. Yeah. So those teams have their issues too. Can you name a wide receiver right now in the Ravens? Can anybody?
No.
Duvernay.
Bateman's hurt. I don't know if he's playing this week. He hasn't played.
He's missed the last couple.
He's their best
still
receiver.
On the team.
He's their best receiver, and he's just at this point he's okay.
Hey, he's on my team.
Be
nice.
Let's be clear.
By the way, you beat G.
Yeah.
Did we name any receivers on the Patriots going into Sunday's game?
No. We're not using. We can't use that no more.
Yeah.
That's
Guys,
done.
I still don't know.
We're analyzing a game. We still have to bring these things up. I'm not saying it might not turn out to be that big a deal.
This Ravens team was 35-14 on Miami.
Yeah.
And blew it in the fourth quarter, 35-14.
Yeah.
So I think
blew a lead to the Bills.
Like Cleveland.
Yeah.
They're not as concerned offensively because as long as you have Lamar Jackson, he could, go Yahtzee any game of the week. It doesn't matter.
And he hasn't played great the last couple of weeks.
And the Browns have done okay.
They have done okay.
They have. Let's hope that continues. The way the defenses look this year.
I know.
The defense of the Browns is ranked, I think, 30th this year.
I believe they've given up more points than any team in the league.
One.
I believe they've given up the most points in the NFL.
I mean,
they may have.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, it's nothing.
They have. This is crazy that I'm sitting here saying this. This is crazy. The Browns literally, if they keep the same defenders that they have, there is no way they're winning this game. And you didn't get no D tackles this week. Clowney don't play. There is zero chance that they win this game.
Do we know what the? I have a fear that the Garrett injury is more serious than we know.
Of course it is.
6.5. The Ravens are favored by 6.5.
Wow,
yeah, it's not like this is a 14-point game or anything. I mean, come on.
Do we know anything more about the Garrett situation?
With the shoulder?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
he's playing.
He couldn't put a shirt on Sunday after the game. I was watching him in the locker room. It was one of those where he was really struggling to get it on.
I'm afraid that's going to end up being worse than we think.
He injured. At this point, you could tell
he's not 100%. This is probably something that's going to linger all year.
Yeah.
And it was a car accident.
His car flipped over 12 times. Think about it. And then you played a week later. I could tell immediately when he was going through the bags and hoops. He was dipping, clubbing, and ripping, and that one arm was sitting here. I said, that looked real cute. You find out a way to club and rip with one hand. That's the first thing I noticed. When he tried to go grab the quarterback, and he just grabbed him and just threw him down, you could tell midway through he was like, man, I can't even really use this arm right here. And that's one of the things that you need to have as a defensive lineman is to be able to get off blocks, is to punch and release. He can't punch.
It feels like another season. We've had so many with this team that started with so much optimism. And just here we are, we're going into week 7, and we just feel like it's all up in smoke yet again.
Man,
it all could change in 1 week.
I was never that. Were we really optimistic?
We didn't pick them to make the playoffs.
No. I'm talking about before we knew it was going to be 11 games. When we thought, initially it was 4. We're like, what?
It was 6, wasn't it?
No. Originally, when the thought was he's going to get 4 games.
Yeah.
And I think that's what management was banking on. Let's get through 4. You got him for 13.
4 to 6 was the range they were kind of thinking. It ends up that we
lose him for 11, and it just so that was the first domino.
Yeah.
And then the Garrett thing, and the poor play, and the blown leads, and it's just like from where we were. I wasn't thinking Super Bowl, but I was thinking this team could make the playoffs.
But you got
even when the 11-game thing came out, 6-5, Watson rides in and saves the day.
But when you look at the defense, that's why it's so egregious. That's why I'm so up in arms, because you knew what it was. Jacoby Brissett, for the most part, is playing above his pay grade. He had interceptions, but here's the thing. When you down that many points, you throwing the football. So for the defense, they were supposed to come in here and be the strong suit. And then it was like, maybe, I don't know why they think Deshaun Watson helps you tackle. Or Deshaun Watson's going to make you.
Deshaun Watson can. Don't you agree if they had Deshaun Watson, they'd be 4-2 at least, if not 5-1?
I don't agree with that.
All their losses were close except for this last game.
But here's the thing. They didn't lose those games because of the offense.
I know they didn't lose because of the offense.
They lost because of late interceptions when they were driving and trying to win the game.
Deshaun Watson is so much better than Brissett that he could have overcome the poor defense.
I agree with Bull, because how many times have we seen elite quarterbacks cover for bad defenses?
All the time.
Matt Ryan, I think the Falcons had the worst defense in the league, and Matt Ryan took them to the Super Bowl, won the MVP that year.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers has done it in Green Bay. There's also a lot of examples of quarterbacks who can't do it and overcome bad defenses. But we've had plenty of elite quarterbacks.
Even if they were
you don't
average,
talk about the defense when the quarterback's that good.
I get that. But even if they're average, this team defensively is one of the worst defenses in the league.
They have been, yes.
So even if they would have played average, we could have won some of those games. Average.
And they were talking about, G. Bush, they were talking about being the top-ranked defense in the league.
Yeah.
They're like
That's where we all over-speculated on this team. We were buying what they were selling, and it was fool's
I
gold.
think ultimately the biggest disappointment is the secondary. Because that was where we knew there were problems at defensive tackle.
I agree with that.
We knew linebacker was, so-so.
We expected them to be good.
Right, but we thought the secondary was going to be sensational, and it's been hideous.
And if you want to drill down even farther, the safety,
the safety play has been
Delpit's been terrible. JJ3's been terrible.
That signing's been awful.
The jet sweep. Tybus is in our chat. He says the jet sweep. They ran a simple jet sweep with a receiver. This guy did get touched for 30 yards. And I'm looking around, and every time you see it, if you go watch all 22, watch how many times either John Johnson or Delpit are completely unblocked. And they don't make the tackle, and they're nowhere in the vicinity.
They're in the wrong place.
Right.
I don't get it. That's one of the worst signings I've seen in years.
Johnson, Delpit, Ward, Newsome have all been huge disappointments this year. All four of them.
They've had moments. I feel like Ward's been okay at times. Newsome's played well at times.
But you expected these guys to be top notch, and they haven't been.
But the safeties to me have been the biggest disappointment of the defense.
Hideous.
Now look, Jay, you talked about it. That's why when you talk about, okay, we got Deshaun Watson, we got all these other things, and you got a window, the worst thing that can happen is you figure out that somebody you thought was going to be good or an impact player turns out to be terrible.
But that happens all the time. The Browns are not unique. And by the way, like this idea that the Browns have, at least, I'm not talking about years and years ago, but like in the last 10, 15 years, there haven't been that many seasons where we thought the Browns were going to be good and let us down. I mean, for the most part, we thought they were going to suck until recent years.
I thought last year they were going to be better.
Last year, certainly.
And I thought this year they were going to be
2019 to now, we all thought they was going to be good. Every year.
Every year.
Well, but 2020, I think a lot of us thought they weren't going to be as good because they disappointed in 19. So in 20, they kind of surprised because Baker wasn't very good in 19. The team we thought they'd be good in 19. They weren't.
Yep.
And then going into 20.
They were better in 20 than we thought.
In 20, they were better than we thought. And then in 21, they disappointed again. But in the decade before that, we never thought they'd be any good. In fact, that year with Brian Hoyer, when they were 7-5, that team looked like a 4-win team.
Yeah.
And they fell apart after that because Manziel
that seems
got
like ancient history. We get so caught up in the here and now. I just think the last 3 years in general, there's been a lot of excitement around this franchise, and they have delivered a big fat goose egg.
I don't disagree. However, and I know it's easy to say, well, next year. We're going to see Watson for 6 games this year. And if he looks like the quarterback that he looked like in Houston, and he plays that way here, I think that's going to give us good reason for optimism for next year.
I think that's an even bigger assumption as we sit here today because of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Look at the quarterbacks in 2019 that were top-tier quarterbacks. Now, I know some of this has to do with age.
Right.
But Brady, Rodgers, Russell Wilson.
They're all old.
Somehow the league has figured out what the offenses were doing, and they're unable to do it at the same rate. 19-16 last night. The game went to overtime. Russell Wilson 3 years ago against, I know Justin wasn't in the league 3 years ago or wasn't who he is today, but you're thinking that game's going to be both teams are going to be in the 30s. And they, for long stretches of the game, it looked like they were just figuring out what they were running.
Most of the young quarterbacks.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
you're
Watson's going to be great.
You're right. You don't know.
It's a dangerous assumption to say, oh, he'll definitely be that same guy.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's definite. I'm saying I think it's likely. And if he is, even if he's not quite as good, if every other quarterback is not quite as good either, then if he's not quite as good as we expect him to be, it's still okay. But I don't know. Most of the guys that seem to be tailing off are older quarterbacks.
Right.
They are.
Right.
But, I mean, I expect him to be – I'm not expecting him to be great right off the bat because he hasn't played in 2 years.
You're right, the names I mentioned.
Yeah.
But even Josh Allen and Justin last night, I think he's been good this year. He hasn't been the same guy he was.
Yes.
I don't. And matter of fact, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has been the same guy.
And it's two things. Number one, with the Watson thing,
Yeah.
I have no expectation for these 6 games when he does come back. I don't know. He could be terrible. He's been off for so long, and he's been thrown right into the deep end. He'll have some practice time leading up to it, but I have no idea what to expect. It could be awful. But that won't, no matter what it is, if it's bad, it's still not going to stain what I think of next year. Like, it's all on next year with a full offseason, full OTAs, full training camp. He's the guy. All of this
What's their
behind
cap
him.
situation, though, for next year to go out and address these glaring weaknesses?
Well,
because they can't do it through the draft.
They're 20 or 30 million over the cap right now, projected to be, but they've got 50 million in cap space that they're rolling over. So I think they'll be okay
they're fine.
on the cap next year.
That scares me.
They need 2 defensive tackles, 2 new safeties.
Yeah, but you don't have to spend huge money on every single guy.
Remember, teams build through 2 avenues.
Right.
The draft and free agency.
We ain't got no draft game.
Well,
they got no draft. They just don't have a first-round pick.
They have
It's not
draft
a
capital,
first.
but let's face it. If you take a look at the picks that the Browns have made the last 2 years,
Which we're doing tomorrow or Thursday. Jay.
where are the impact guys? And we had first-round picks in those drafts.
0.
Well, I mean,
4th down, no
So,
impact.
and by the way,
they've only had.
you can build through the draft a lot less. It's a lot less expensive to build through the draft than it is to go out and hire established players at top dollar.
Agreed,
I don't
but
know
you
what
can
they're gonna
get
do in
guys
free
in the
agency.
2nd, 3rd, 4th round and get good players.
You can,
in
but I
theory.
haven't seen that yet.
Yes.
So
we
you're
haven't.
you're hoping on something that hasn't materialized yet.
Yeah,
And-
I
and
mean,
it's a
elite
rookie.
players they haven't got, but they haven't had a lot of high picks, you know.
And it takes a couple of years for the lower round
Right.
picks.
And Martin Emerson's looked really good so far.
Yeah, Emerson.
He's
been their
I
best
think
so
Emerson's
far.
been fine.
Yeah.
But-
I think Nick Harris was probably going to be okay, and then he got hurt. He was
Right,
a lower
yeah.
round pick. DPJ's been fine.
Your boy
he's
Kate
fine.
York. DPJ was a 6th-round pick.
And I think David Bell will be okay. I know he's been on a milk carton.
Oh,
I agree
God.
with that.
He's done nothing.
But receivers,
we know why?
Rookie receivers tend to take a little bit longer.
Not
No, but
anymore.
not anymore.
Well, I don't know.
It used to be running backs could come
Look at
into
the
the league
last
and
couple
make that
of years, though,
immediate
Jason.
impact.
The good
Look at
guys.
Sky Moore. Where's Sky Moore?
No,
with
there are
Kansas City?
examples of guys that have been drafted early.
we don't know
that
that Sky
haven't made
Moore's
the
gonna be
impact.
good either.
But we've also seen in the last couple of years where guys that are rookies at wide receiver have come in.
Chris
and had huge
Olave's
years.
having a big
Olave's
season.
doing
Garrett
well.
Wilson's doing well.
Yes,
London's
fair.
playing
That's
well.
fair. But I guess I was going to say, and Olave is a good example. He wasn't even a first round. Was he a first round pick?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think he was. Yeah.
So the first round picks, like George Pickens, I think is going to be an animal. But his week to week, he's kind of up and down, up and down. Sky Moore, we haven't seen a lot of. David Bell, I'd put in that group. I think in time, back half of this season into next year, I think these guys are going to be
Yeah,
fine.
I'm not saying
hope
he's
so.
done already,
I
but
hope so.
but there have been a lot of guys because
they're
David
gonna-
Bell wasn't a 1st-round pick.
Right,
That's fair.
and going back to the defensive tackle discussion, you know, Togiai has been a huge disappointment. Jordan Elliott's been, and I think they were probably expecting to get more out of those guys than what they've gotten. And so,
I don't
as
know
we
why.
say, they haven't addressed it. They have. They just haven't got the production that they thought they were going to get out of their draft picks out of guys like Togiai
They
and Jordan
can't even
Elliott.
get lined up straight, and they get blown off the ball.
But the other thing that's really interesting, it's not like you would know this better, and Tyvis would know this better. I don't see any exotic schemes defensively.
No.
Thank you,
to
Jason.
fix- no, I'm not
Oh!
talking. No, I'm not talking about.
Oh!
I'm not talking about just the Browns. I'm not.
That's
Thank
the worst
you.
water bottle toss in the history.
It
of
was
the
more
show,
like a
and we
flop.
missed water bottle tosses.
You know I
every
ain't got
day
no
since we
arm.
started.
You know, thank you.
But no,
Talk
no,
that
no.
exotic defense stuff.
But no,
He's right.
I'm not just talking about, but as we're talking about the games are lower scoring and the offense and defenses is caught up. Well, how? Because, you know, it was obvious when offenses spread 5 wide and started playing basketball on turf, you know, it was obvious where the change came. But I'm not seeing defensively like any Buddy Ryan schemes.
Nothing.
that-
The
so
defense is
Nothing.
I think it's more about sloppy offense from some teams.
you might be right. Because
Than
I
it is
don't.
about defenses
It's not
being
I
like
think it's a little of both.
It's not like you could put your finger on this is why. And it's normally you can see why. And I don't think we have the why yet.
I think the scheme like on how you stop Mahomes and these Josh Allen and these guys that are
Yeah, but
throwing
Josh
35.
Allen's having a monster season.
I don't think he's having the season he had last year. I don't know.
He gonna throw for 5.
He's had a couple games
Last
where I
year he
looked at
threw
his numbers.
36 touchdowns. This year he's on pace to throw 51 touchdowns.
Yards. How many yards?
Last year he threw 4,400. This year he's on pace for 5,000.
How do you know on pace?
He's thrown for 2,000 yards already,
Well, damn.
right? So
yeah, I've got on my fantasy team. He's been pretty good.
He did throw for like 500 against Miami.
Well, damn.
Yeah, no, well, then listen, it all averages out.
I
but
think
still,
he
those
had
are-
yards per game.
I didn't think his numbers were over 400
yards
a game.
per game last year. Josh Allen 259. This year 330.
Wow, I wonder how much that has to do
Good
with the fact
Lord.
that they're just so much better on defense this year.
Good Lord.
They were really good on defense last year.
They weren't
actually.
top ranked. They were top 10.
I think they were top 5 though. Hold
I
on,
think we were
I'll
top
look that
10
up right now.
Up until the Chiefs game, they were pretty good.
This is
They were. Hey, are we going to do
Josh
the
Allen
trivia?
is the highest.
We're gonna do trivia as I'm
Oh,
looking
okay,
up
no.
this points.
Second
Give me one sec.
This dude.
Well, go ahead. You got something?
No.
Oh.
I'm just saying Josh Allen's completion percentage is better than last year.
So
he's better across the board.
He's like MVP then.
And the
Right
Bills had
now,
the number
yeah.
1 scoring defense in football last year.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
What?
Say again?
Bills
they
had
really?
the number 1 scoring
What
defense.
about yards per game?
Yards per game. Number 1.
No kidding. I don't remember them being top ranked in both last year.
They were really good last year.
And by
I
the
don't remember
way,
them being top ranked in both.
And by the way, just think about how much the time period changes things. Go back when they drafted Josh Allen. They were in the same boat as the Browns.
They were us.
They were both terrible.
Yep.
They both had the same weaknesses.
And long stretches between playoff.
And look what they did and move forward.
And
look
look where
what
we
we
are.
did. We moved forward. And you can see exactly
They
why.
didn't have the same weaknesses, though. Josh Allen's only weakness was his.
No.
no,
He's talking about the
Team.
organization. The Bills were
I'm
the
sorry.
Bills
when
in
they
it.
drafted
Right.
Josh Allen, where the Browns were.
Yes.
Obviously, they were at the top of the
You're
draft.
right. You're right.
Jay,
But-
the big difference last year, Bills 23rd stopping the run. This year, first stopping the run.
Yeah, well, I know they're much better
That's
against
the
the
big
run.
You
difference.
got to stop the
So
run.
By the way,
I'm
Patrick
surprised they
Mahomes
were
also
number
on
one.
pace for more
17
yards.
points per game last year.
But they were
points allowed.
23rd against the run last year.
Man, you can't beat nobody.
Probably though, and sometimes those stats can be skewed because a lot of the Bills games they had big leads, so teams are chucking the ball all over the place.
I always judge defenses by like some of the analytics and some of the advanced stats because just going by yards is.
No, I like yards per run attempt, yards per pass attempt. That's more apples to apples because, of course, you would expect the Bills' passing defense to be scorched because how many games were they up 35-7?
Right. You're going to have all
lot.
that garbage time.
So-
Patrick Mahomes also on pace for a better season than last year. Although his completion
that
percentage is
surprises
down
me.
a tiny bit.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
You guys ready to play a little trivia here?
Let's do it.
And then
Let's
we got to
go.
read some super chats and we'll close out with
Yeah.
a little Guardians talk. We'll run through these pretty quickly, but this is some Browns-Ravens history. We wish Jen well. We hope she gets better. She's not feeling under the weather. But, Steve, let's take the first question. Question number 1. We're going to answer as a group here. What is the longest winning streak the Browns have ever had over the Ravens?
1?
No, I would say
3.
That's what I was
I think it's
thinking.
3.
3. Wow.
No, I don't
Going
think-
that
But
high?
have
No.
they swept them in it? That would constitute
Joe,
a sweep.
Joe Flacco is like 19-3 versus the Browns
Yeah, big,
all time.
big advantage.
So like 3 losses. I know for one of them the loss was way back in I think 2004 or something. I'm gonna go with 2, maybe,
wanna say
possibly.
2?
So
All
I
right,
went 1,
possible.
you guys went 3.
All right, so
splitting the
I'd say
difference is
2.
2.
Let's see. And you guys are smart. G. Bush.
There we go,
Right on
baby.
money.
Well
Nice.
done.
2 Baltimore's
Well
longest
done.
streak.
Nice.
11
Good
wins.
God.
But think how sad that is.
It's pitiful.
Never beaten them 3 times in
is
a row.
pitiful.
That's the city that stole our team.
That's crazy.
Oh, my God.
That has to be it.
They stole our team.
And then became good. How?
Won 2 Super Bowls.
How? That's so
next
painful. That's
next
painful.
question. here.
How?
That is
They
so
changed
depressing.
owners. That's how.
That's so.
It's so
painful.
depressing.
It's painful.
How many times have the Browns beaten John Harbaugh?
Is John John or Jon?
I copy and pasted from the email, which said John.
Yeah, that's right.
Why do I think it's Jon? Okay.
This means you got to get this
4?
question right now, Jay.
Yeah, no.
How many times have the Browns?
4? I don't know why 4 sounds right.
Well, here's
How
the
long has he
thing.
been there?
He's been there over a decade.
He had Flacco.
It's higher than 4.
I think
gotta
it's
be
higher than
4
4, too.
Yeah.
I
it
think
doesn't-
he's lost.
I would say 6.
I think he's lost 3 with Flacco, and I think he's lost 2 with Lamar Jackson.
So you're going 5?
I
He
would
said
say
6 or
I
7.
would say
I said
6 or
4. You
7.
said 5. What are you saying?
I would think 5 too.
All right, let's go.
But
Go
you,
5. It's
You wanna go
fine.
6?
You said 6?
I think it's 6 or 7, but we can go 5.
Let's
Go 5.
6
G
months.
seems to be on this right now.
Consensus is 5. Consensus is incorrect.
Oh, I was right.
4
I
was
was
right off
right.
the bat. John Harbaugh had
23
23
4.
4 record.
I'm an
Because-
idiot for thinking 7.
Lamar, so he only beat Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson
He's
lost
beaten
once.
Lamar Jackson 3 times. They only beat Joe Flacco with Harbaugh once.
Oh wow!
They beat Lamar Jackson 3
3
times.
times? I can't even remember that.
Wow.
We had the graphic earlier in the show. Lamar is 5-3 against the Browns. Are you guys ready for number 3?
Wow.
Let's take it. Steve,
Keep me away from sharp objects.
what is the highest scoring game in the history of this rivalry?
Total points?
Total points.
Total points.
Oh, that game where Baker.
Wasn't there a 38-35?
Was that the game where the Dawson kick?
Nah, there was a game where Baker was playing and he came back. He kind of scored a touchdown, threw the ball against the stands.
Yeah, wasn't that like 38-35?
I thought it was. I thought it was.
That's where Lamar came back.
Yes, that was that.
That was the game.
Yeah.
42 what? 38 or something?
42-39.
I'll tell you guys this: you have the right game.
Where
Yeah,
Lamar
get
came
the
back
right
out.
score.
Was it
Good
80
question.
points? Was it 80 points?
Was it 42-39?
I don't remember. It was
42
a
is
wild
one
game.
of the right numbers.
Yeah,
42.
Is it 35?
38.
No, it was less than a
I'd
touchdown.
say 80 points.
Because he brought him back and they scored.
Yeah.
Wait. I remember John telling the story.
They
where
needed a touchdown. They needed a touchdown, I think, to win at the end, didn't they?
No, the kicker. It was. I think they were within 3.
42-41, 42-39.
And then Lamar brought him back and they scored. Man, I would say I think you're
42-39.
And they were winning, and I think Trace McSorley came in the game because Lamar Jackson went to the bathroom.
Right, and then he came
back.
Yes.
Trace McSorley
threw a touchdown, didn't he?
He got hurt. He got hurt.
He got hurt. Then Lamar
But Lamar
Jackson
came back in.
Right.
Lamar Jackson threw a touchdown pass in a broken coverage to somebody wide open in the end zone.
Correct. You guys are you're right there. It's
Yeah.
the final
I
score
think it's
prediction.
42-38. That's what sounds familiar
So
to me.
you're going to
but
go with
ahead.
80
I'm going with 80.
instead of 81.
I don't know.
See, it all comes down to would have a field goal at the end tied it, or did they need a touchdown?
I think they needed a touchdown.
I thought they needed a touchdown,
they
which
needed
would have made it
touchdown.
42-38.
I remember
80.
Harbaugh telling the story about Tucker always jogs by him and this is a great clip if you can find it, Mikey, from that game. It's a great clip of it was like an interview that Harbaugh did where he was going over his options and none of them were good. And the third string quarterback's like, I got you. It's hilarious. You've got to find it.
Y'all pick.
Go with
Here's the
80.
thing.
80.
You guys are right with the game. You're right with one of the scores. The issue is you're way off on the other. Let's take it, Steve. The final score of the December 14th, 2020 game, the Ravens won 47-42.
89.
We knew they needed a touchdown, though, right? Like,
Well, that would have made it a field goal would have won it 43-42.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that
You guys are right there. Just the specifics.
Yeah, that was
All right.
tough.
Question number 4. What former Browns kicker missed a field goal in 2011 AFC Championship that would have sent the Ravens and Patriots into overtime?
What former Browns kicker? Oh, he wasn't playing for the Browns.
Did Phil Dawson
No.
go on to kick for the Ravens?
No.
I think he went on to kick for the Patriots, though.
Phil? No, he went to San Francisco.
San Francisco.
No, but didn't he go to?
No.
I thought.
This is probably one of
It's
those.
not Phil Dawson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
This
end
is
that
one of
right
those
now. It's
trick
not Phil
ones who
Dawson.
came here after that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Is that possible?
yeah.
I'm looking it up right now. I actually didn't know when he played here.
I think this is probably a kicker.
No, he played before and after,
Oh,
according to
here?
his Wikipedia page.
So he's here twice. I don't remember who that. I don't know who that
No
would be.
clue.
That was back in the Phil days. Phil was here from 2000 to.
Maybe Phil missed the game with injury or something.
He played on 3 teams in 2009, and
Yeah.
one of those 3 teams was the Browns, according to Wikipedia.
Maybe Phil missed a
have
couple
been
of
hurt.
games.
Phil must have, and they
hurt,
signed
yeah.
him for just a brief minute.
I can't think of who it is.
2011 kicker for the Ravens and Patriots.
This is obscure as hell.
No, not for both.
I'll give you a hint.
Go ahead.
Lee Evans dropped a pass in the end zone that would have won the game on 3rd down. Flacco
I
threw
remember
a
that.
dime.
Lee Evans.
Lee Evans dropped a pass. They lined up for a 33-yard
receiver.
chip shot field goal that this player shanked. It was my freshman year of college. I was watching with the Ravens fan. I will never forget.
Wow. I got nothing.
No, nothing.
I got nothing.
0.
You guys are going to kill yourself when you hear this. Let's take the answer.
Seems a little extreme. but
Billy Cundiff.
Oh,
Billy
Billy
Cundiff.
Cundiff.
I'd have never got
I don't
that.
even remember him being on the Browns.
I do. I remember
Billy
him being in
Cundiff.
Cleveland.
All right, last but not least, question
Oilers?
number 5.
I mean, the Titans.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Which Browns player intercepted a pass and returned it for a franchise record 100-yard touchdown in the first meeting between the Browns and Ravens
Was it Joe Hayden?
in 2007?
Which Browns player intercepted pass return?
100
It is
yards.
not Joe Hayden.
Is
Not
it?
Joe Hayden.
Is it? I want to say Bowden or
We should
2000.
know this.
No, Hayden wasn't even in the league in 2007, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Hold on.
2007?
Hold on.
Wouldn't he have been? Well,
thought he was drafted
Don't
after
put that question back up there.
It's not Joe Hayden.
It's not Joe
Regardless,
Hayden.
It's not Joe Hayden.
I should know this.
Joe Hayden was not in the league in 2010.
What year did he come in?
2010.
So he returned it. He returned it 100-yard.
15 years ago. Oh, Lord.
I mean,
Jen
trying
got
to
some tough
remember a
questions
Browns
this week.
cornerback from 15 years ago is tricky.
You were in New York.
Oh,
15 years ago.
tell me, it ain't
Football nerd.
Good gracious, this is the tip of
wasn't
my
there.
tongue.
G. Bush, I thought you had it earlier. You were on the right track.
What did he say that made him on the right track?
Yeah, what did he say?
Specific name that started with the letter B.
Bowden,
Close.
Baxter.
Close. Not as close, though. I've never heard of this guy, I'll be honest.
I don't know. I give up.
Jesus, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, I'm
Drawing a blank.
I was covering Ohio State. I was.
Go ahead.
Let's take it. I don't know who Brodney Poole
Should've
is.
asked for the
Rodney Poole.
We could have
is
sat
the-
here
We
till
would've got
first
that in
pitch.
a billion
Could that be
years.
more obscure, Brodney
Very
Poole?
obscure. But what's really
Jen's
obscure?
kicking our ass today.
What's
Gee.
really obscure
Thanks, Jen.
is that the dude from the Bills, Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
He was just here.
He was.
Yeah.
He was a nothing.
He
Invisible
was here. Just special teams. Jordan Poyer.
Who cut him?
And now he's just
special now.
That's crazy. See, that's what I'm
Hey,
saying.
Jason, we do
You
have
never
a
know.
super chat question directed right at you, though, real quick. It's
Okay.
from Charles T. in Germany.
Yeah.
How much power does Paul D have over locker room and players?
much.
Does coach really have the power to bench players? Did Paul D say no DTs needed?
No, I don't. Deep Podesta, I really don't think he has a lot of control over. Like, I think Andrew controls the draft and the roster. I think Paul's role is sort of like it sounds kind of business-like and hokey, but organizational structure and who to identify and strategy and stuff like that. I don't think it's necessarily picking players. I think Andrew's picking the players. Now, collectively, all three of them may sit down and say, we want to move away from
But
deep
someone
tackle.
breaks ties.
Yeah.
Someone told me that covers the league. This is a number of years ago. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. That every organization does it by committee. You know, the head coach has a voice.
Yeah.
What that voice is,
Sure.
it varies organization to organization. Some, the general manager has a voice. But what this person told me is that every organization has a tiebreaker. And at the time, he believed that the person with the most power in the Browns organization was Paul. Now, maybe it's changed. Maybe he was wrong.
But this is what's interesting.
He was hired prior to those dudes.
But
and
here's
he did
what
go
it's
to
been
step.
shrouded in mystery too. Like they're not real transparent on how this thing works,
I mean, he's in San Diego half the week.
Yeah.
which is a problem.
And that's curious.
Yeah.
But like,
Didn't Holmgren try to run the Browns from Seattle?
yeah, but like, they didn't listen to him for years. Like, that's why I think no one knew what Paul. Every suggestion Paul made, they didn't listen to him. Paul didn't want John Dorsey. There was never a John Dorsey. Paul certainly didn't want Freddie Kitchens.
So
he's sitting in this ivory tower, and nobody's listening to him. And
maybe that's when they gave him the keys to the castle.
until now. And I wrote that the pandemic year, it's like they're finally listening to Paul DePodesta. Like, Paul wanted Kevin when they hired Freddie.
Yep.
And I was skeptical of Kevin then. I'm like, no one's talking to this guy. What do you guys think you know that no other team in the league knows? Because nobody else is interviewing Kevin Stefanski except Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, I obviously I went to bat for him yesterday. I like Kevin. I think he could be just fine. Like, he's going to be just fine. I wholeheartedly believe that. And who was the coach of the Bills? Paul wanted him, and they didn't hire him.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the head coach of the Bills
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yes.
Sean McDermott.
Right.
And
He's done
so
a great job.
there's just like, so all of these things that were like DePodesta was advocating for, Jimmy wasn't listening to him. So it was like, why do you got this guy here?
Well,
if you're
you
not,
gave a few examples, but we don't know about individual player selection and draft. Like, he had to be getting his way at some point, otherwise why are you paying?
Well, I can tell you there was a huge collision. Obviously, I don't think this is anything
With Dorsey?
groundbreaking. Well, with Hugh. Hugh wanted
Yeah.
nothing to do with analytics.
Right.
And Dorsey even was so. Paul's biggest role is, I think, what we're talking about is choosing, identifying Look, Jimmy can't pick a coach and a GM. That's been proven.
Well,
And
track record.
so I think that's Paul's role, is finding leadership people in leadership roles and identifying them. And like, I think Paul was 100%. Andrew and Kevin were 100% Paul. But in terms of like, we're going to go for it on fourth down. We're going to pick
Kevin.
that D tackle. Yeah, I don't think. Now they may be a collective group, but I don't think Paul has that power. I don't think he does.
I think he has a lot of power how they allocate their resources. I think they do sit in the room and say, you know what, on the pecking order, where would we slot this position? And defensive tackle and linebacker may be somewhere down on the bottom of the list, and they may say,
looks like
we're
they
not
are.
going to spend over $5 million for these two positions.
Again, they drafted JOK pretty high.
Second round.
Second round.
I mean,
Second round.
I mean,
that's pretty high.
That's high.
That's a
Second round pick. That's, you can't spend significant. Most analytics people don't think you should spend big money on guards, and they've spent big money on guards.
That's the philosophical way you go about building
So
a
I
team.
don't.
where is football won?
What is that?
Where is football won typically?
Up
On the
front.
lines.
In the trenches. It's at the point of contact.
Okay.
you can't-
Well,
If you're moving their guys back, you
Well-
have a significant advantage at moving the football.
Well, on the offensive line, they've done a good job, and on the defensive end, they've done a good job. Defensive tackle, they haven't. They've drafted some guys mid-round. They haven't spent any money there. We'll see, and it does make a difference. I mean, if you look at the Bengals' run defense, last year 2 years ago their run defense stunk. Last year their run defense was good. First couple of games this year, Bengals had a good run D. Last 2 games, their run D hasn't been good. You know why? Because DJ Reader was hurt 2 years ago. He played last year. He played early this year, and then he got hurt again.
Yep.
And that's what. Now he's a star defensive tackle, doesn't get sacks, but one good player in the middle can make a difference. So yeah, it matters, and the Browns have blown it at that position. But
Again, I think they get blinded by the glamour of the big name. When you think, except for the offensive line, they have not used that philosophy there, but their big splashes over the last couple of years. What have they done? The OBJ move, the Landry move, even the move for Deshaun Watson. These are the shiny objects.
And that's ownership. That's owners.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I said yesterday, Dorsey didn't want OBJ because he knew like it was all the headaches that come with them. That was all the Jimmy move. I'm still like, I get yelled at every time I say I think Deshaun was owner-driven.
Who yells at you, fans or someone inside the organization?
No, in the building, saying Andrew was on board first. Andrew was on board before anyone. So whatever. But Mikey and I were having this conversation in text yesterday. Exactly what you're talking about is how you go about building a team, regardless of the sport. Football probably more so because it's 22 guys, as Chuck was saying when he was here earlier. It's so many, but it's not just the big name, and it's not. That's fantasy football draft of give me the biggest name. What's his numbers? Okay, well, we want those numbers on our. That's not how it works. That's not how team building works.
Well, it's not how it's supposed to work, but it feels like that's how this team has been.
But I don't agree with that because you have to have a big name. You want a big name at quarterback. That's what you want.
Sure, but
you do need that.
But where else do they have big names?
No, but Jay's talking about OBJ and Jadavian and some of these other big names that they've brought in.
But
where
first
it's not
of all,
necessarily
Jarvis Landry was a big name. He's a good wide receiver.
Landry made a splash when we signed Landry. The excitement was off the charts.
Yeah, but he's not a star. He was never a star.
He was,
but you
no,
can't.
What was the stat on Landry? He had 3 straight seasons of.
He's a good receiver.
Over 120.
But you guys
catches.
are complaining they don't have enough good receivers. Now we're going to complain they spent money on Jarvis Landry.
Complaining. What we're saying is, it seems that the organization has become intoxicated with these big splash signings that temporarily appease the fan base. But let's face it, what they've produced is not what they were
I just think
advertised.
the only examples of that are, in my opinion, are Odell and Deshaun Watson.
Team building is not go get the biggest name.
That's what the Rams did, and they just won a Super Bowl.
That was the piece they were missing. So if you're one piece away, it works.
Didn't we all think the Browns were a quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl?
I'm not. I was all for getting Deshaun.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not talking about that necessarily. I'm just saying.
But so what's the other example? I mean, Odell's 5 years ago now. I mean, that's old news.
I'm just saying the ownership group in this town, and
he's a clown.
In two of the sports, because the Cavs are the same way. It was just obsessed with names.
Right.
When the press conference. That's not how you build a team. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Right.
It's not necessarily go get the biggest name, go get the biggest numbers. I remember when the Cavs got Timothy Mozgov, And like there was other guys, other big names that they could get. I remember talking to Griff, and Griff's like, we don't need that. Like, we need that guy. No one may know who he is, but he's 7 feet tall, and he takes up the entire door frame when he walks in the room.
What he
That's
does
what
is
we
what
need.
we need.
I think
Well, that's because they already had the big
I
name
think
in LeBron. Otherwise,
yes.
Otherwise,
Of course.
Timofey Mozgov's useless.
Of course you need big
Yeah,
names.
right.
Of course you need star power on a team. But that's not the only way.
Better
that
not neglect the guys in the trenches for the guys.
But they're not.
What gets
outside
caught
the
up,
defensive
what gets
tackle.
caught up and missed all the time is you have to develop. That's a major problem with the Browns. The Browns, it don't matter if you get a guy from over here at another team or you draft a guy. You still have to develop the guys. I still haven't seen the Browns consistently do what other teams do.
Well, Bill Callahan has.
Yes, he can do that, and I'll give him credit.
If we had guys that could develop defensive tackles and linebackers the way Callahan has linemen, because, guys, there's been times where we've sat right here in the studio and said, oh, they're screwed this weekend. They got to start this one or that one or this one. They come out here and we're like, wow. They grade out at 90% again.
That just goes to show you how important development is, because they lost to center Harris, and now the center is a top center right now. Pochich is a top center.
Pochich has been fine. Yeah,
he
he's
has.
been fine.
And I attribute that to Callahan.
Yeah,
2
for
points
sure.
real quick, and we got to get to final takes.
He was a bust.
Speaking of grades, Myles Garrett, the highest-rated player in the league last week by PFF.
Of course. I can tell you that without watching the game.
Secondly, do you guys remember the Eagles when they signed like Nominee Asamoah and Vince Young? And they call themselves the Dream Team.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Jason's point, you could win the press conference. It does not lead to wins on the field. It is 1 o'clock.
Nominee Asamoah. What a weird career.
Yeah, but again, the Rams did it last year, and it worked. The Browns are not.
It's the exception.
Since Andrew Berry's been here, and you don't even think he wanted him, Deshaun Watson is the only splash move they've made.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know. It certainly feels like an ownership-driven thing to me.
And again, there were a lot of splash moves made this offseason to get wide receivers. Should the Dolphins not have traded for Tyreek Hill? I don't know.
Well, that was the Browns' splash move was before Watson was to sign Amari Cooper.
Yeah, but
that's a splash move.
But do you not want them to get a receiver? I don't understand.
No,
so what's the point?
You're missing my point
altogether. What is it? Explain
You absolutely have to have these guys.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is they've put too much emphasis on having Myles Garrett. Now, I know that through the draft, but Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, these are all marquee names.
Yeah.
If the Browns were a Broadway show, what names would you put on the marquee? And they've had a lot of those guys over the last couple of years. A lot of them have not panned out. Odell here, big disaster. Landry had his moments, but in general, I don't think he lived up to what the hype was for him coming in.
I don't know. He was a good receiver coming here.
I thought he was a really productive receiver coming in.
He was.
But we never got that kind of production out of him.
By the way, we laugh and joke all the time. The year in 2019 when we say they were all trash, Nick Chubb had 1,000 yards. Odell had 1,000 yards.
Nick should have run the rushing title.
Jarvis Landry had 1,000 yards.
I don't buy that the Browns have too big a problem with studs and duds. All these contracts they've signed, we've all been in favor of them, except for Njoku, and so far that's been pretty good.
And
I didn't love the Denzel Ward signing at all. I was the only one that day who didn't love that.
All right,
that Njoku, I told y'all. I told you he's going to be.
If we're going to do final takes, we got to get him in now.
Yeah, let's go.
I don't need to do one. We're late on time. It's fine.
We've got 7 minutes left if we want to use it.
We can talk Guard if we want to go back and
Final thoughts on Guardians?
Yeah.
Clean up?
Don't worry about the rain out. Stop whining about it. There's no conspiracy in Major League Baseball to screw over. Yes, we all agree Major League Baseball and the TV networks would rather have the Yankees win, and it's going to be sweet if we could stick it to them when they don't. However, there's no conspiracy to screw over the Guardians last night. It was raining. What the hell are you going to do? Hopefully they can win this game without Shane Bieber, so he's good to go against the Astros in Game 1 tomorrow. But ultimately, it's got to be all hands on deck. It doesn't matter what you have left for the Astros if you don't get to beat the Yankees and take on the Astros.
He's got 5 months to rest.
I got to tell you, I have never been more. I was just thinking about this before. I have never been more excited. Wanted a team to win more that I didn't grow up rooting for. Like besides the Cubs and Bengals and like St. John's back in the day with Chris Mullen 40 years ago, I'm so old. I have never been rooting for a team more than I am for the Guardians today. I want them to win this game so bad, just like everybody else out there. I'm glad that it's coming up finally at 4 o'clock. It's supposed to be nice in New York today. Let's go. Get it done. I think they're going to win.
What he said. The only thing I'd add, I agree, like the conspiracy thing is nonsense. And we said it earlier in the show. if baseball really was trying to finagle something for the Yankees, they would have canceled the game at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And instead, the Guardians were the ones pushing. The Yankees wanted to cancel it then. The Guardians were the ones pushing. Let's wait. Let's try.
And they did.
And they did. Baseball waited. They tried. They tried as hard as they could for as long as they could. And finally, at 9:30, whatever it was, as Jay said earlier, Brian Cashman came out and said another storm sort of developed and something broke off it. There's nothing they could do. They can't play a game at midnight. They waited as long as they could. I don't like it either. I said earlier in the show, yesterday I liked their chances to win 85%. Today, 73%. I'm not as high on them.
Let's go, 77.
But I still think they're going to win.
Is your son going again today?
Yeah, he'll be there.
I feel the only people I feel bad for are the fans that have to sit there for hours.
No, feel sorry for me because I'm on the air from 4 to 5:30.
Wait, Jay, question, and this is serious. I saw a couple people on Twitter, including my friend. They paid for tickets and parking yesterday. Did not get a refund and/or a ticket to today's game. Did Corey have to buy another ticket?
Well, Corey's.
What do you mean? Don't get a ticket
Corey's
for today's game?
in the owner's box for the Guardians. Yeah.
Oh, so he's fine.
Whoa.
Well, so I've talked a number of times on this show about my cousin who is really Blitzer's big contact with the Guardians.
Right, yeah.
He's the one that negotiated on behalf of Blitzer. They're the same age. They were both super tremendous athletes. They've been very close their whole lives, and he works and lives in
Nice.
New York. So he's having my son as
okay,
as
so
a
take
guest.
Corey out the equation.
So
How
yeah,
much-
I can't tell you.
Why
if
would
he's-
you have to buy tickets? If
But
you're
I've never heard of that
tickets.
before.
The
Those
tickets
tickets are transferable.
My
Mikey.
buddy said he's
Your
paying
buddy's
for a
smoking
second
something.
ticket.
You got to pay for parking again, yes, but you shouldn't
Should not have to
won't
pay
have to
for a
pay for
ticket.
that ticket
What if you
again.
bought a ticket secondhand?
That's the one.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it should still transfer.
It's still a
over.
valid
Transfer.
ticket.
Those
Yeah, that
tickets
doesn't
are
make any
transferable.
sense.
I don't.
I'm just saying what I
Your
was
friend's
told.
full of crap.
I've never heard of that.
Or is it dope?
I saw Hayden Grove tweeted it out too. That he.
Let
has
me
a
tell. I
friend.
gotta say, Mikey, no offense, but we've met some of your friends already on the video. They weren't the sharpest tools in the shed.
I don't know. I can't think of an
This doesn't make any
example
sense.
where that ticket wouldn't be
Now the
transferable.
parking. What are you gonna do?
Parking, you're out. You
The
got to pay
Yankees
for
don't
it
own
again.
the parking lot. I don't think. So
parking, you're out.
Yeah,
not that
parking,
they give
you're
you
out.
your money back anyway.
Because you even get, if the game doesn't happen, you get refunded your money.
Automatically. I mean,
Like
they're not
if you
selling-
bought tickets to a game 5 and there is no game 5, they refund your money.
Yes. So I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what kind of shady ticket dealer he went to. But
Yeah.
Him and Hayden Grove both tweeted. Well, my buddy texted me and I saw Hayden tweet it. So
What if you buy tickets from somebody off the street, right? They're the original purchaser. So you buy that one ticket, you go to the game, it's rained
But
out.
you can't even buy hard tickets anymore.
no, they don't
It's
have
all
them.
online.
It's all on apps.
So-
now maybe. Okay, now here's how I bet this is what happened. That ticket was initially issued to the owner, the original buyer of the ticket.
That's what I meant.
If you buy that ticket and you sell that ticket and you transfer it to someone,
Send them email.
the next time that ticket is reissued, it's going to go to the original buyer.
So shouldn't that guy send the ticket? I guess
He
they could
should,
sue
but
you.
what do you think they're going to do?
You think you're going to get a hold of
That's
him?
pretty messed up.
I'd sue him. I'd sue him.
That's
I will find out. I'll text you guys.
I
I'm
bet
about to
that's what
text my
happened.
friend right
I
now.
guarantee that's
I
what
bet
happened.
that's what
yeah.
happened.
I mean, that's the only
He
thing.
If those
attacked-
tickets are being reissued, they're being reissued
To the original owner.
owner.
He
Yeah.
sent him
And
that
now
email. Like,
he's sitting with that ticket, and he can either use it or sell it again.
he's selling that boy.
But
yeah.
that's a
messed up.
shady loophole.
Absolutely.
I will get back. We'll have an update
I
tomorrow.
bet
on
that's
the
what
show.
it is.
And,
I will get back
and
to
he's
you all
going to
this
sell it for a
afternoon.
higher price, too, because it got rained out. The anticipation is better
Yeah,
now.
I bet that's what happened. I bet
Dang,
that's
you
what
got
happened.
got.
So that, you know what, that's a lesson to folks out there. You better buy the ticket originally.
First hand.
If you sell it, or if you buy a ticket that's already been issued to somebody else,
Yeah.
I suppose during a rainout, you're subject to being. Can you imagine?
sucks.
Those tickets were going for in the thousands.
Thousands,
Can you
bro.
imagine you spent $2,000 for a ticket last night? You sat in the rainstorm for 3 hours and
Parking.
you got nothing?
Parking 100.
I mean, I would assume if you're willing to spend that money on a ticket, you got a lot of money, but I guess you never know.
$2,000. Still
$2,000.
$2,000.
You don't have a lot of brains.
Hey, somebody take $2,000. I don't care how rich you is. Like
That's a chunk. You don't
You
want
just
to
gonna
lose
take that from me?
I got World Series tickets at Wrigley Field for games 4 and 5, and
Yeah.
I was able to get them face value.
How?
I just had a connection that
Man,
had connection to tickets.
You should.
I was very lucky.
You shouldn't say
It
that.
must have been a great friend
See,
because
y'all-
I was at those games. Those tickets were going
It's
for
not somebody I'm that close
serious
with,
money.
but
I
they
hate
did
these people.
Yeah.
Y'all be knowing people. You can't say I got it for face value like you had it, like you could go somewhere. You got to have this small disclaimer. I know people. That's what it should say in italics.
For game 5, I was sitting in the back row of Wrigley Field, which is not Wrigley Field is not that high, but it was It was I think it was $150.
That's sick. I don't know how you did that. I really don't. All right, we're out of time. 22-hour break. Enjoy the game. Hopefully we're sitting here tomorroh yelling and screaming about the Astros and the Guardians series.
Which would be tomorrow night.
That would be tomorrow night.
After Yankees.
They were chanting that at the Browns game.
Yankees.
And even the Patriots fans in attendance were joining in.
They were.
Did you guys hear the chant for Harrison Bader in center field?
No.
I didn't
can
know if
imagine
it was
what it
coming
is.
across on TV or not.
Oh, yeah.
But they were chanting Master Bader, and he actually turned around and made a gesture to the crowd that you go, I guess what the
sure you've heard that a time.
It wasn't a finger, it was an action. Pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Go Guardians.
Go! See you tomorrow. Yeah, there we go.